About to start that stream. Let's do it. Oh, I didn't come up with a name for the stream. All right. You know the deal. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's your first time here and you don't know the deal. Normally I start like 10 minutes early, but I'm only starting like 5 minutes early, so I'm just going to hustle this together right now. Poke, poke, tap the mic. If you're watching this later, you might want to fast forward 5 minutes. Well, there's an ant on my desk. Wow, very unprofessional. All right, so I'm just going to post this on Twitter. We'll hang for a few minutes, getting it going. And we'll do this thing. I have already written the tweet, but YouTube now does this thing where I have to write the title live on the air. Let's call it pre... Hey everyone, I see you guys in the chat. What's up? We're going to call it Spooky Vibe Exploration Hour. Non-secular spooky vibe. Anti-secular. There we go. Anti-secular spooky vibe exploration hour. That's what's going down right now. That's a great title. Boom, saved. Now I just have to go to YouTube and copy and paste the link in. It's got the wrong thumbnail too, but we're just gonna roll with that one. Not gonna change that. How you guys doing? I'm doing good on my end. I'm just gonna proofread this really quick. Should I throw in? I think I'm gonna throw in the skull emoji. I never use the skull emoji. I never use emojis in general, but might entice people. It's not really what it's about, but boom, I posted it. Bell gang, yes. We already have 11 people. That's enough. I should just lock it, and just whoever's here in the first few minutes, you guys are the only people that get to watch. Okay. Boom. Got this open. Can I change the thumbnail? I have my own little thumbnail I made for the Halloween one. I don't really care that much, you know? How much do I really care? I'll change it. I'll change it. Why not? How you guys doing now? I'm doing good. I've been working on a lot of cool stuff here. Yeah, if you're not early, you don't get to watch exactly. I've been working on a lot of really dope stuff here, man. The funny thing is that, you know, I finally got the vibe. I feel like before the pre-show is always kind of like, you know, let you guys know what's going on. And I finally got sort of like the whole studio operation going, you know? So like basically the whole deal with me running this whole thing is like, let's say maybe like a few years ago I used to just, you know, sit down at the desk, make a piece of art, and that was it. And then I'd finish it, and then that was it. So every day was like its own isolated thing. But like I'd say basically the story of like getting to run the studio over the last, you know, year or two or whatever has been making it a bigger operation where now I have these gears turning and wheels spinning. I'm just taking the top layer off this piece of paper over here. So it's good. So I finally got it going, but now I'm like, oh, dude, it's Halloween, and I have to do Halloween stuff. But now instead of just being like, you know, every day is a new day in the studio, it's like every day I come in and there's these huge like gears turning far beyond my grasp, and I'm like, oh my god, it's already 2 weeks before Halloween. I gotta get the Halloween stuff going. But it's cool. I do have something pretty dope planned for Halloween itself, but I haven't really been pushing the fall art situation too hard yet. But I will. You can hear my neighbor, who has just booted up a lawnmower. It's actually very atmospheric, because I came home. It's a good story actually for the pre-show. I'm gonna organize my paints and stuff while we're talking. So I came home from this road trip, and there was a lawnmower sitting in my front yard, just literally sitting there, like a decrepit, rusty, all the pieces sort of strewn about, obviously non-functional lawnmower sitting in my front yard. And I was like, wow, I can't believe it's just sitting there. Literally a 30-year-old boomer neighbor. Knowing as a guy, seeing this lawnmower there, I was like, that's the lawnmower's permanent home. at some point while I was gone over the last month, my neighbor obviously procured this lawnmower. It doesn't work, or he's fixing it, or maybe it does work, and now it lives on the lawn. I live in, it's kind of like that. It's like we share a big giant lawn, basically. So my wife, naively, being an intelligent woman, not an idiot male, not thinking like an unintelligent male, which I am, and the neighbor is also, was like, oh, he was mowing the lawn. He got a lawnmower, and then he happened to just stop, and he must have just stepped inside. So I laughed, and I was like, no, that's where the lawnmower lives. And now there's this lawnmower that lives on my yard. I guess there's nowhere for him to put it. I guess somehow he procured this riding lawnmower and didn't think about where he would put it, so it lives on the lawn. So every time I come home now, there's this lawnmower sitting on my front lawn. And now he's riding it around. And it's almost dark. It's actually kind of a creepy vibe, but I guess it fits the stream. I don't care. I'll stop in a minute. I don't care about the noise. I just thought it was funny because, it's like you got the thing to take care of the lawn, but then it lives on the lawn. It's like a piece of the property now. It's kind of beautiful in its own way. Anyway, that's what's going on with me over here. Yeah, it's mine to watch over. Yeah, for sure. Amped about painting some stuff right now. What else is going on? Oh, it's already 7:01. Let's hang for just like 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll pull the trigger and get this thing going. Any other pre-show details I could kick off with? Not really, man. I'm waiting for the foliage. I'm waiting for the foliage to like burst out. And I went on a hike the other day, and it was way longer than I thought it would be. But also everything was still green. Everything was green. I was like, okay, why did I come out here? Thanks, nature. That was a good time. But everything's basically still green here. That's basically it. How are things going for you guys? I'm just hanging out, working. I'm going to pull the trigger in 1 minute. It's 7:02. We're going to pull the trigger at 7:03. The election stuff is not really that exciting. We're not going to talk about it because other people on Twitter talk about it and, whatever. But it's not that exciting. I feel like I wish it was more exciting. I wish I was more amped about it. I was kind of looking forward to it in a way, in the way that you enjoy, like, picking a scab or having something, like, awful happen to you sometimes. I was like, oh, I can't wait for it to pick up. But now it's, like, 2 weeks away, and I feel like it hasn't really, it's not that exciting, honestly. I mean, I get that, whatever, people feel strongly about it, but it's kind of waiting for, like, I was waiting for, like, oh, man, it's good, but it's not really happening. That's all good. Reading a lot of theology stuff. Got some cool stuff we'll talk about in that department. Anyway, it is time. It is now the hour of the time. If anyone gets that reference, I'll make you a mod in the chat. But it's time, 7:03. We're pulling the trigger right now. We are starting the show. All right, it's time. How's everybody doing? That was not much of a pre-show, but it's all good. We'll cut to the main situation right now. So let's see. I think I got everything together, but if I don't, we'll just roll with it. Let's just jump right in, though. You know the deal. If it's your first time here, sometimes it is people's first time here. That's very flattering. If it's your first time here, normally we just kind of get it going, and then I have some stuff I want to talk about, hang out in the chat. Kind of rolls over from like just me hitting the script I want to hit to hanging out with you guys. And yes, it was Bill Cooper. Yes, Roche's fan will get a wrench eventually when I poke into it. Anyway, so let's do it. So maybe you were here last week, maybe you weren't. But I was thinking, temporal nature of the show, do it every week, gotta hit the seasonal vibe. And I realized Halloween, fall style. Hadn't talked about it for all of September. Might as well hop into it right now. So last week we kind of did loose, fast, kind of crazy, loose painting stuff about Halloween and things like that. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper into it, not really informationally. I'm not really going to lecture, honestly, just because sometimes I can get caught up in doing that, and then it's like 30 minutes and I'm just talking about some random stuff. It's not really informationally, but visually. And I was thinking, so I mentioned this last week, just a little like 10-second recap. But I was like, intersection of, fall and the Bible, and I kind of was like, that's not really working. I was really trying to make it happen, and I was trying to force some things. And then I was thinking, Halloween has sort of an interesting history in terms of being tied in with like All Hallows Eve and saint stuff and things like that. So I thought we would kind of explore that vibe. I guess what I was really thinking was that in a way it's kind of interesting because last week we talked about it. There is sort of like an American, at least, I have no idea what it's like in Europe, but there is sort of an American Christian reaction, you could say. It's not really very popular. It's kind of rare, actually, in my experience. But where people are like, Halloween is kind of like a devilly holiday, I don't know if we're going to do that. In my town, actually, there's this, I don't want to say what the organization is, but there is an organization, then they don't let you do Halloween stuff there. It's not really a big deal. You would never notice it, but, since I know the people that run it, they happen to mention it to me. Thought it was interesting. So I think it's kind of interesting because there is that like celebrating death, devilly kind of darkness situation, but in my opinion, it's kind of like a corruption of this sort of thing that naturally came out of, it didn't come out of Christianity entirely, but it kind of naturally dovetails, that's the word I'm looking for, with the whole, Christian theological aesthetic situation, memento mori, thinking about death, All Saints Day, praying for the dead and things like that. So I thought we'd kind of just hit a picture, kind of exploring that, kind of do something kind of fun, but also exploring that vibe. And I do have some pictures that I'm going to go to. So super quick, I'm just going to, I have it open on my phone, but I just like to pull up the stream on my phone when I go to the desktop because I'm not going to be able to see you guys in the chat, so I'm going to have no idea if it's actually working, but it's worked every time, so I'm not actually really worried about it. You are going to see Infinite, Benoit Mandelbrot, Fractal Cam for a second. Now we're on the desktop. Now we're in Photoshop. Closing that too. We are going into the show folder, just so you don't have to freeze frame. And, I really hope nothing is open. Cool. All right. Cool. It's all good, actually. I'm just looking at all this information, but nothing here is weird. You can also notice, since I paused, the only games on my computer are Roller Coaster Tycoon and Grand Theft Auto 2, which I play about once a year. Anyway, did it work? Yeah, it worked. Cool. So, basically, in case you don't know, I'm not going to recap the whole history. Honestly, you could just skim the Wikipedia page, but basically most people here probably know Halloween came from sort of All Saints Day, All Hallows Day, All Hallowtide, hallow being a word for to make holy, basically. So holy, hallow, all the saints. And Halloween sort of naturally grew out of that, starting at Vespers, the evening prayer session. I'm moving my hands like you can see my hands, but all you can see is the screen. Let me just full screen this, actually. Grew out of that being the ceremony that started on Vespers the night before All Hallows Tide, All Saints Day, basically. It's kind of a rough and tumble explanation of it. And while I was looking at it, I saw this picture, and I thought this was really, really awesome. Just this picture of all these saints surrounding Mary on the bottom with Christ on top. When I actually found this picture, it didn't say where it was from, so I kind of just pulled it out, but I don't know where it's from, actually. But I thought it was kind of a cool representation of that. Maybe we'll do something. I've been really feeling the kind of medieval-y saints all lined up in a circle with all their halos, although I don't actually think this is a medieval painting because of how it's painted. Anyway, there is also obviously a pagan influence to Halloween and stuff like that, but I don't know. Maybe we'll go into that a little bit, maybe we won't. Damn, I really can't go picture to picture. I put them all in order. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. In terms of, skull, aesthetics, darkness, and things like that, again, if you're watching this, we talked about it, you probably know about it already, but this is one of my favorite images. I was thinking of Christian use of skulls in artwork, and this is a painting by someone named Caravaggio. In case you don't know Caravaggio, he is the killer, best, so good, kind of after the Renaissance. You really would say in the Baroque period. It's a little bit further after, but we're not going too art history style right now. But he's really the master of like big, dark, intense paintings. If you're Christian and don't know about art, I highly recommend checking out Caravaggio's stuff. It's really some of the best paintings of all time, for sure. And I actually got a poster of this image when I was at the Vatican. I went to the Vatican a long time ago. And it's just really, really awesome. And it was the first thing that came into my mind when I thought of skulls, Christians. So here, obviously, it's representing death. This is an image of St. Jerome. I forget if I said that. But I really identify with and really love this image of this saint. You know, he's obviously really old. He's reaching out over these huge books. And then there's just the skull in the darkness sitting there. Like it's almost like he's like racing against time to like complete this work that he's like on earth to do. But he also has the halo. You can see there's like, actually, this is a really cool thing that happens later in the Baroque period. But they start doing the halo, just like this little piece of like almost like floss, like a little thread just around the head. It's really tight. And I really love it. In case you don't know, St. Jerome's did a lot of stuff, but one of the big things he did was translate a lot of works like the Bible and stuff into the Vulgate, out of Latin, or into Latin. I didn't really prep this segment too much, but, you know, he did a lot of translation work, basically. He's a really cool guy. And I love this painting. Anyway, keep it moving. Oh my god, I have to close and open it every time. It's all good. So I also saw this image. So I know you can't read this, but I'll just read it to you. I was reading this article. I actually went from the Vatican website through a few articles. It took me to this website called adoremus.org, where it was talking about Halloween and things like that in a Christian context. And I'll pull up a larger version of this image, but just to read what it says, it said, "Props such as scythes and skulls have historically recalled our mortality and Christ's victory over death. A fresco by Giusto de Menabui, and it's Italian, in the baptistry of Padua, for example, depicts our Lord as the prototype of the Reaper, as, quoting from the book of Revelations, one who looked like a son of man with a gold crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand." And I thought that was really cool. I don't think most people have seen images like this where Jesus has a big giant scythe like the Grim Reaper. Like that's how it, what's one way we interpret that image now in our modern culture. But I thought that was pretty awesome, and it kind of hit right on the theme that I was mentioning of, where all these kind of death and mortality images have this split nature, where on the one hand, if you're secular, it can be seen as like celebrating death, but on the other hand, it also has like a theological context. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just a few more pics, then we're going to jump into painting. This is just really creepy. Maybe some people have seen this, but this is the original jack-o'-lanterns. They used to carve them out of turnips, actually, and they would have these candles in here. I suspect they were originally developed as like a way to shield the candles from the wind, and then naturally people kind of started carving faces into them. There's a lot of like, I don't want to call it folk history, but just stories people tell about how these different, Halloween things developed that I'm sure we'll talk about. And last thing, so what I thought we would do this episode, we're going to tie it in a little bit, but it actually didn't really play out exactly how I thought it would. I have this sticker here. I'll show you in a second, but I've made this image of St. Odilo of Cluny. He's related to some medical stuff. That's kind of why I looked him up initially. But he actually, I thought he was the one who instituted All Saints' Day, but it's actually not the case. He instituted All Souls' Day the day after it. So I thought we'd tie him into the whole Halloween thing, but then I was like, it actually isn't really Halloween. It's kind of the day after, so I thought I would let it go. But I looked up where he was abbot of. He was abbot in this place called Cluny in France, and I thought this was a pretty cool building. And I think as a jumping off point for our picture, we're going to use this image here that I found that's of the institution of the abbey. And, there's all these people in it. That's cool. But I thought this structure was really nice. And lately I've been really feeling using this kind of like medievally building structure as a way to like break up the space in a picture. So we're going to use this as the jumping off point for the picture we make today. And that's basically it. Last thing, little bonus image before I bring it back to the cam, is when I was cruising through articles, I saw this costume. Obviously, the one on the left is the one I'm pointing to. But this kid is dressed up as St. Denis. And he's like, in case you don't know, St. Denis is a saint that's depicted as holding his own head. And I just thought this was so awesome. I can't believe I've never seen a Halloween costume like this before. So if anyone needs a Halloween costume idea or you have kids or something, I feel like that's just a really, really sick idea. Anyway, those were the pics. Did it work? Did it work? Cool. Just wanted to make sure everyone was not in the chat being like, hey, we can't hear you. That's what I was worried about. Anyway, so that's basically it. And yeah, you can see here I mentioned St. Odilo of Cluny. This is a sticker I included in the last pack of prints that I did. Wow, the holograph looks sick on the camera. That looks sick. Actually, it's funny because I don't know if I tweeted this or not, but just a little other insight before we jump in. But so I initially looked him up because he's the patron saint of people that have jaundice, and I have this. And we don't need to go into it, but I have this medical thing that sometimes gives me jaundice. So I really am like super trad. Actually, is the joke I make about it. And anyway, I went to the hospital while I was in Colorado. I don't really want to go into it. It's not a big deal. I don't want to make it seem like I'm fishing for sympathy. Like I'm totally fine right now. But I had this as a bookmark in one of my books, and my wife brought me the book. So I'm reading the book, and this picture fell out. And I was like, wow, I might be the only person in like all of Christendom that has a 3x3 holographic image of the saint related to their particular medical condition. I was like, boom! I ascended to that. That's what I ascended to. So let's just get it going. I kind of wanted to... So again, in case you haven't seen the show before, sometimes I do it super formally, like I have like a picture we're jumping off of, or, you know, sketch or something like that. But what I kind of wanted to do now was just feel out that overlap of that vibe that I just described, where that kind of creepy, spooky, I guess we can say creepy, feeling dovetails with the theological vibe, thinking about death, mortality, celebrating or praying for the dead. Really, it's more like praying for the dead, I suppose. That's how All Souls Day came about with St. Odilo of Cluny. He, I think someone asked him. Oh, actually, you know, it's kind of a cool story. The story is someone, it wasn't him, had a vision of purgatory. They were like shipwrecked on some island or something. It's, you know, I didn't like prep the story for the show, but it was something like that. And they had a vision of purgatory, and when they told St. Odilo of Cluny about it, he was like, hey, purgatory, yeah, you know, that's true, actually. And he was like, you know, why don't we have a day to pray for all the people, to like everyone that died, you know, like everyone all together. And that's one of the stories about how it came about. While I was researching, I also, you know, I don't know how it is when you guys do research, if we have like some academics in the chat or whatever, but I feel like past a certain point, you just get a lot of like stories and tales, and it's kind of hard to tell, you know. Especially when it comes to like how something originated, you never really get like one definitive story, like, oh, this is definitely 100% how it came about. But one of the stories I got for All Saints Day, that being November 1st, i.e. the precursor that makes Halloween, een being a shortening of Eve, like evening, so it's the evening before, was Gregory III, Pope Gregory III was consecrating something in St. Peter's Basilica that was for all the saints. So he made it a feast day there, and then later Gregory IV, easy to remember because it's 3-4, made it a church-wide, i.e. all of Western Christendom, all of Christendom, I guess, holiday. Anyway, let's see if I missed anything in the chat. Bill Cooper, hi Owen, how was your day? We'll talk about my day. It was chilling though, I'm chilling, man. What do you think of Mexican folk saints? Like, oh, that one, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about all that stuff. I guess that's actually a really interesting overlap that I hadn't considered. But let's jump into the picture and get it going, and then we'll talk about all different kinds of things. So, if you know the show, you know the first question I have to ask that's been coming up is what color am I going to use for the lines initially? I know what I want to jump off from, so this is one of those times where, you know, if you have the spectrum of it being totally 100% planned out, totally 100% winging it, kind of in the middle. I know a little bit how I want to get things going, and then it's kind of more fun if we're like winging it together. But to get it going, I want to have an archway, and I want to put something in the archway, and that's kind of how we'll get it started. So I have to decide what color I want to use for the lines. Let's just take a really dark brown. Let's just use this burnt umber, dark brown. Someone said nice arms. I know. I can't hide the arms. A lion does not hide its mane, so I cannot hide the arms. I'm trying to get jacked. Maybe eventually over the course of the show we can go back and then stack up all the episodes, and by that last one my forearms will be like 3 inches thicker or something. All right. And what I want to do right now, so like I mentioned before, just speaking purely visually, I'm using the right mic, right? Poke? Yeah, I am. I've been really feeling the use of architecture to break up spaces. Last night on Patreon I posted this image, and it was one of the first times I really like successfully, I feel like, use like the archways with the pillars to kind of break up the visual space, and it's kind of what I want to do right now. So I'm going to start with an archway, and I want to put it doesn't really matter. I want to leave enough room to get something going in the middle, so let's just go for it. I'm just going to throw down kind of a nice archway right here. Perfect. And I'll come back and kind of put up the, you know, stuff on top of it and things like that, but I want to just get going in the middle. So I'm going to throw down these boxes. I was looking at a book of early, like 10th, 11th century drawings. It really got me going. It's kind of my jam in a way. It's like kind of pre-medieval all the way back to like, you know, 300-400 AD. I really, I get a kick out of all that stuff. So I'm just going to throw down some basic like pillars right here just to get us going, breaking up the space. And we'll decide what kind of style we want to use on them, but I'm just going to throw it down here. Damn, that was really straight. Nice. I got really lucky there. Perfect. Same deal over here, and I'm looking at the camera. I really like this brown, actually. It's perfect. It's almost black, but at the same time, if we put in some black, it'll be darker than the brown. And that's actually what we're going to do in a second. Boom. Boom. Ah, perfect. I'll definitely take those pillars. I was kind of worried they would be a little wonky on the stream, but all the years of painting are finally paying off. I'm going to throw these boxes down. And it's kind of nice using the architecture to break up the space like this because we'll be able to go back, and I'm always talking about like taking opportunities in a drawing like this. We'll have a lot of like opportunities to put stuff in. You know, I could put something on these pillars. I can put something, you know, behind them or around them. We can use the archway, do something cool with that. So we've got a lot of options there. But first things first. I actually don't think I've ever used black paint on the stream. We always use ink. Oh, word. I got a super chat. Nice. John Schultz Barnes. $10. No message. Thanks, man. I'm humbled by your super chat. I will do my best to live up to it. To live up to your expectations for the show. All right, so speaking of that, I haven't really done this in a while, but I kind of want to right now, and we're going to because I am leading the show. I kind of want to just have this like, by the way, also, you know, I'm always kind of thinking also people watching this, and I want to get people like drawing and stuff yourself. You know, you can see these two things aren't really like lined up perfectly. Doesn't really matter. We're going to put like a bunch of details in and stuff. So by the end, your eye is not going to be picking out these like perfect little hyper details and stuff. So it's not going to matter at all. If you're drawing on your own and stuff, especially with ink, like I recommend and things, you know, little things like that, just keep going. It doesn't matter at all. In fact, it actually eventually kind of like adds character like into the drawing. Like if I'm doing stuff in Photoshop, sometimes I'll intentionally kind of go in and make sure things aren't totally perfect because it kind of imparts like a human element to the picture. All right. So what I want to do right now is I just want to make a monk wearing black. It's going to be wearing like a black hood. And I kind of like when I get this vibe going. Like I just said, it's very like 400s to like 600s AD, painting and drawing, illuminated manuscript, but I kind of like when they're almost just like a lump. They're just like a lump of like robe, and there's not much definition in there. I did a picture of Mary recently where I tried to do it in there, and it was like, it's Mary, you kind of need to go back in, and I need to go back in and put the folds in and stuff, but I think for this picture, for this guy, and then it's black also instead of the dark blue, I think it's going to look good. So I just want to come in. We're going to make a little space for his head in here. And I want him holding a candle. I really want that kind of like, not creepy, but solemn, kind of numinous, ethereal-y. Like when you're in a dark church and it's just candlelit. It's not creepy, but it is like solemn. Numinous is really almost the perfect word. In case people don't know, numinous means like kind of beautiful, but also like a little dark, a little scary. Like beautiful and scary at the same time. It's a good word to have under your belt because it's a good word to aim for sometimes if you're doing art and stuff. Cool. Okay, and in here, I'm going to make him holding a candle, and it'll be kind of cool. We can get like the candle light coming off if we do it right. I'm just going to give him little like kind of paw hands because we can come back in and kind of do whatever we want with them. But for now, just hands like this will be fine. And it's funny, I talk a lot about how people ask me, oh, do you get your style from like X, Y, or Z? But when I was looking at this book of like 10th and 9th century paintings and drawings, it perfectly illustrates how like if you go back far enough, the line between like quote unquote like cartoons and comic style drawing and then actual like old drawing is just completely and totally blurred. Some of the drawings in there, you know, you could pull them out and it could be like the cover of a comic book or something today. Not a lame comic book like superhero comics, but like an underground one, I guess. Anyway, cool. This is perfect. I'm gonna come in here. We'll throw down the flame, and what I'm thinking at the center of the picture will give it kind of a cool, cool vibe. Is I'm gonna throw down the red of the flame, and then around the outside we'll put in orange, warm yellow, cool yellow, and then the black of the robe outside of it. And it'll be a good look. You can kind of, with this kind of painting, if you do your colors right, you can get like the illusion of like opacity. I mean, the illusion of like translucence and the illusion of like varying opacity. So you'll see what I mean in a second. Oh, and Cyclops, do you know about church grims? Usually appear as dogs and protect churchyards from witches and thieves. Spooky little folklore that combined with Christianity. That's really awesome, actually. No, but it's funny you mention that because I wanted to look into like, it sounds kind of like it is what you're mentioning, but there's lots of like, well, I suppose this would be the opposite of a hellhound, but there's lots of like ethereal hound stuff, and my dog is like really, really a hound. I never really even used that word before I got her, and it made me think of how hounds intersect with like paranormal-y stuff like that. So I actually was going to look into it soon, but I didn't yet. She's white, so I was joking that she's not a hellhound, she's a heaven hound. But no, I do know a lot of like noise making and like protecting church kind of stuff, and it does go into like medieval folklore. One thing I was thinking like that is, so like we were talking about All Saints Day and then All Souls Day, and that forming like what's usually called like All Hallowtide in my studies and stuff. And in some parts of Europe, there became this kind of like tradition, I guess, where they were like, well, you know, we're praying for all the saints and all the souls of the dead and stuff. Like, what about people in like hell and stuff like that, you know? And they would go around and bang like pots and pans and ring bells and make all this noise and stuff, so the souls in hell would know that they like weren't forgotten. Not exactly theologically sound, but I thought that was pretty cool, actually. Okay, so I'm going to throw it down. I really should wait till this is dry. I really don't want to, though. Honestly, just being totally honest with you guys right now. So let's just not. Let's see how it goes. Come through here. Perfect. We'll paint in the orange. It might not be enough contrast, but that also could be good, you know, if it's like a low level of contrast. Give us the look we're going for. Perfect. We'll probably have to come back in and tighten it up a little bit, but it's not a big deal. You can already see the orange is bleeding in a little bit there, but whatever. It's not a big deal. And I'm going to grab the warm yellow, the cadmium yellow. And I want to see how much we can push the fall color situation also. When I was hiking, I was walking around. I was actually thinking about the show. Because I was like, you know, I'm not really getting the October color scheme that I'm after. I'm not really getting the October colors that I want out here. So I was thinking about, you know, what are October colors? And I was kind of thinking how, you know, fall has like very dark but also very light like color manifestations. It kind of goes both ways. So I don't know. We'll see what we're going to do with all that. So let's paint in this quickly. Then I'm going to throw down the cool yellow, and then we'll kind of keep it moving. Never want to get too stuck in like one part of the picture. We'll come back and like tighten this up. So I'm just going to come here. I'm going to kind of loosen it up a little bit so we can go a little faster, keep things a little bit more interesting. Got the yellow. Boom. The last time I was in a church with no lights was actually Christmas. So it's interesting because the dark with the candles, you really can kind of harness both vibes. It can be like nice and warm and cozy, or you can get that kind of, frankly, like creepy element going. I guess it'd be interesting to unpack like how and why you get both of those, but we're not going to do it right now. Yeah, it looks dope. Cool. And I just want one more. I want one more color between the blue, the yellow, and the black, just to give it the illusion like the candle is lighting up the black a little bit, and I think the blue is going to do that. So I grabbed this cobalt blue. It's a really warm blue. Let's see. I want to keep it moving, like I said. So I'm just going to quickly throw down this blue on the outside. And then we'll bleed it into the black, and we'll see how we did. It's pretty quick, but it's all good with me. Cool. Nice. All right, then this is going to be dope. Get the black going on. And since I want to do some detailed stuff, we'll have to keep it moving. So I want to get a skeleton, stuff like that going on. I want to get someone with a scythe, some fall trees. So I'm going to keep it moving a little bit faster now, actually. Boom. Cool. Perfect. And I wonder what we're going to put behind him in here. It would be kind of cool to make him in the dark, but he's wearing black. Let's see how we want to play that. Someone said Hokusai made awesome manga doodles and some of the greatest woodblock prints ever. Yeah, there's a meetup between like traditional art from different cultures and then like cartoons and stuff, because once you simplify something beyond a certain point, it's kind of ambiguous, you know, like are you looking at a cartoon or, you know, a drawing from 400 AD? It kind of becomes ambiguous after a while. Okay, cool. So I'm going to throw down the rest of the black in here. I also want to do an image of like different clothes, the different like orders and stuff wear. I think that would be really cool. Okay, so we're throwing down the black. And I'll kind of just leave it ambiguous at the bottom. Let's just kind of get a little bit of looseness going down here. Cool. Put in his face. Boom. I'm going to kind of go with the lion eyes. Been really feeling that lately. Make him a little bit less alien, a little bit more human. There we go. Get the hair in here. I've also been going with this kind of medieval hair where it's just kind of like poofed up there. And yeah, you can see it bleeding a little bit. I'll break out a bigger brush once we get, you know. I like to start with a focal point that your eyes can kind of like focus in on nicely, and then we can get into the big brush strokes. Or it might be cool to just start doing a little bit looser with the small brush. Okay, anyway, perfect. So speaking of that, I want to get the archways and stuff in. I kind of, I could say painted myself into a corner with these, because it's not really thick enough right here, just so you know what I'm thinking. It's not really thick enough for me to come around. I don't want some thin, like, wussy little, like, teeny tiny arch. So I'm just going to make this thicker and figure out how we want to handle that a little bit later. Perfect. I'm going to roll with some of the dry brush. I'm not really going to worry about making it perfect. Cool. And I'm going to throw in these kind of like, I don't know if you've seen this in real life, depending on where you live, but in Europe they have it a lot, and sometimes in American buildings, if they're copying the style, they'll have it, but sometimes you get these like stripes where it alternates like this. Perfect. And I think this came into the West through Byzantium from like the East, but can't really say. But I have seen it. It always reminds me of the church in Siena. There's a really great cathedral in Siena that has alternating black and white marble. Obviously it's not orange, but I think it's a good look. I used it in some drawings the other day, actually. Perfect. Cool. Nice. Perfect. Okay, and let's paint in the rest of this building. I'm not really going to worry too much about like what the architecture style is or really anything like that. Just kind of want to go for it. Keep it moving. I'm tempted to get a bigger brush, but I'm not going to. Let's do it this way. I am going to actually just put down a second. Let's see, how much room do I have? It should be fine. I'm going to put down a second set of pillars. Cool. Yeah, and you can see I kind of intentionally let the paint get a little bit more translucent there, so you can see the paper shining through it. It's a good look. Okay. And I'm going to throw down a second archway over here. It's kind of like a smaller one. It's not even really going to be like a total archway. And we're not going to put any pillars over there because we want room to do something else because we have enough pillars. In here, I don't know. I know I want to do, I'm 100% sure, probably over here, that I want to do a skeleton carrying a scythe because that's very kind of like medieval, but also we talked before about, you know, the image of, this line's going to be really hard because the paper's wet, so I'm just going to go for it. Paper's wet, so I can't put my wrist down on top of it, but pretty good. I'll definitely take that. So I definitely want to do a skeleton with a scythe, but I don't actually really know. I'm open to suggestions what we're going to put over here. I was thinking pumpkin-headed guy is very Halloween, but honestly, I'm just kind of pulling that out of my like totally secular Halloween bank in my head. So if anyone has any other suggestions, I'm definitely down, but we'll get to that later. I'm going to throw down the same arch. So a lot of times when I'm drawing, especially if it's bigger, if you're working at home on anything, I recommend doing it bigger than you think you should. People always send me drawings, and I can tell the drawings are like this big. So you want to work bigger so your wrist and arm can kind of like get involved. Sometimes I'll actually just kind of like pick up how big it is, and then you can easily port it over yourself. Your body and like the way your body like remembers things, you can actually just use that while you're drawing. See, like right now, I'm kind of just going to go for it. Cool. Perfect. Perfect. It's definitely good enough. All right. And up top, I'm thinking I'm just going to throw down kind of like some building-y lines. Let's just go for it. I really love just kind of like freeing up architecture. Just because when you're drawing, it doesn't actually really matter if it all makes sense, especially if you're going kind of medieval style. So we'll throw down these kind of like lines up here. I thought maybe we'd get some saints, like not like hyper detailed, almost just like this guy, just like little lumps with like little halos and stuff. I thought that would be cool. And let's just keep the building thing going. We'll kind of just get that all out of the way right now, and then we can focus on the quote-unquote fun stuff. So I'm going to throw down the edge of a building. We'll kind of have like this kind of turrety situation over here. Boom. Perfect. Yeah, that's a good height. Throw this down over here. See, like right here, this bridge isn't really going to meet up with anything, but it doesn't matter. And I really liked a little feature I noticed of the Abbey when I was looking at it before. It kind of had these like taller blocky structures, and then they kind of came up. It wasn't really like an onion dome. It kind of just came up like that. It's like a French onion dome. I tried to use a bunch of onion domes in some drawings recently, and it looked like I was drawing like the Taj Mahal straight up. So I had to go and look at a bunch of like actual architectural drawings of Christian use of the onion dome. Not like this, you know, a little bit more exaggerated. Up here we'll put a window. We can get something in the window if we want, depending on how detailed we want to get. It's pretty good. Nice. Cool. And right now everything, you know, the lines are going to look a little, I don't want to say wonky, they're just going to look a little sparse, a little naked, but once we go back in and start filling everything in, it's like we're laying down like the skeleton. Sometimes I like doing like bigger drawings like this where you kind of just lay out the sort of like mark out the field, you know, and then you can dig in and really do some cool stuff. That's what we're going to do right now. Coming over here. Boom. Boom. Cool. Yeah, that's funny actually. Isidore said in the chat the Mughals brought the onion dome to India. It originated in Byzantine in the East. That's actually funny because, yeah, wouldn't that be the same thing for the alternating marble we just mentioned? Okay, cool. Boom. I got to carve some pumpkins soon, and I'm stoked about that. 2 years ago, I feel like I carved the best pumpkins that I've ever carved, and since then, I've just been trying to, honestly, I've just been trying to live up to that, and I can't. I've been trying so hard, but I did such a good job, and I don't know how I'm going to beat it. So we'll see this year. We're throwing on these windows. Boom. Cool. And then I'll come back in and I'm kind of going to freehand this in with brown and stuff. We'll put another big window here. It'll look like a candle or something in there. It'll be tight. And I'm just kind of moving along swiftly. Boom. Perfect. Cool. And let's come back. Now our saint, a little saint guy in the middle is going to be dry. I guess he is a saint. I guess maybe he is a saint. So we're going to give him a halo. But I want to keep it seasonal, honestly. So I'm going to give him an orange halo. And I just want to make sure I don't put my glove down in some paint. Boom. So we're just going to give this guy an orange halo. And we can shade that in too. Get some nice like fall color in there. Boom. Perfect. Perfect. And let's see. Maybe I can put it super thick paint up here, and then if I don't put down more pigment and just go back in with the water, maybe I can drag out the translucency. Let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of get some water down here. Yeah, perfect. And see if I can just like blend it out. And then on the bottom, I'm going to grab some paper towel, and I'm just going to get that up. Yeah, that's literally exactly the look that I wanted. Perfect. Cool. Perfect. I want to start incorporating more of that, like alternating of the opacity of the paint. Boom. Just going to dry that up. Oh, perfect. Perfect. That looks dope. And then once it dries, maybe we'll come back in and throw some like red. It'll be like a fade down or something. Someone said, when you carve a pumpkin, do you go classic or do you go Owen style? I only can go Owen style, bro. That's the only style that I know. Maybe I'll post one, but I posted one on Twitter before. If someone searches like my @ with like pumpkin or something, it'll come up. But nah, I go hard. We'll talk about that in a second. How do I want to do the space behind him? Do I want to just fill it in brown like he's in the dark? Do I want to, like, what am I thinking right now? I think I know what I'm going to do. I think behind him, I'm just going to take the brown and I'm going to throw it in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave space like this. Like there are like these 2 windows behind him. And then that'll give me space to fill it in with blue and put some stars in like it's night behind him. I think that'll be a really dope look. So I'm just going to grab the brown and just kind of paint it in. And I think that, yeah, when the light is kicking up through the brown, it's going to be a totally like different manifestation of it. Yeah, so the pumpkin I'm thinking of, it's really funny because like, you know, I'm literally thinking of like a specific pumpkin right now. It's like how hard I go. But I do this thing when I carve them, so I have to make sure also, since, you know, normally when we're working, we kind of focus on one part and then we expand out. But just so you know now what I'm thinking, I have to make sure I just don't put my arm in the paint. So just another level 2 of difficulty, but it's all good. We can handle it. So what I started doing for the pumpkins was I carved out the back. Over like a few years, I kind of like developed this technique where, you know, you carve the face on the front, but if you carve something in the back of the pumpkin and then there's a wall behind it, the pumpkin will kind of cast it out like a lantern, you know, almost like a bat signal or something. Like if you carved a bat in the back of your pumpkin and then put some candles in it and then put the pumpkin like a foot away from the wall, it'll blast that bat signal onto the wall behind it. And you can do some like really cool stuff with it. So what I did 2 years ago was I carved this like lotus pattern, but it looked like flames. So when you put the pumpkin like a foot away from the wall, this gradient looks sick, by the way. It's like exactly how I wanted it to look. So when you put it like a foot away from the wall, it would blast this like flame pattern onto the wall behind it, and it looked insane. But since then, nothing I have done is that cool, honestly. I tried to do wings, I tried to do horns, but it's really hard to get it to line up well with the pumpkin. So I don't know, maybe that's it. Maybe that was just my greatest hits. That was it. And I'm just going to live forever in the shadow of that pumpkin. But I want to step it up this year. I want to do something a little bit cooler. When you eventually get to the sky, do a full moon or give a classic jack-o'-lantern face. Yeah, that would be actually cool. Maybe I will do that. Maybe I'll put 2 moons, because the waning moon is very like Halloween vibe. Ugh, look at this gradient. Dude, I love painting. So sick. So sick. Okay, for the windows in here, got 2 options. I could use the cobalt blue. It's nice and bright. I could use the ultramarine. It's kind of a darker, deeper blue. We never use this color, ultramarine, so let's do it. This is kind of a cool color because it's meant to emulate lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli, if you want to be really proper. If you watch the earlier episodes, you probably heard me say it, but it's called ultramarine because ultra means far, marine means ocean, so it would come from far over the ocean. They'd actually get the lapis lazuli pigment from like Afghanistan and places like that. Okay. So I'm going to throw down this blue. I'm kind of worried the blue is going to mess with my fall vibe, but we already put down a little bit of blue, so I think we can get away with it. And it's almost going to be like black, actually. It's so dark, so it'll be fine. We'll throw some stars in here. Very October night. Boom. Perfect. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about this week? You know, it kind of fits with everything, but honestly, you know, I always have kind of like a topic for the show, but then I also have like, you know, what I've been interested in or reading about this week, and it kind of fits with the death and October and everything. Yeah, it looks good. You know, see, you get these fuzzy edges, you know, it kind of looks good, actually. Makes it look like it's like, you know, not 100% controlled. You have that like nice chaotic element of the materials. Same deal around the candle. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot about kind of like the nature of like sorrow in certain theological things. I was listening to a few talks and stuff, and they were talking about Our Lady of Sorrow. It's like I don't know what to call it. I don't want to say it's a version of the Virgin Mary, but it's like a particular manifestation of the Virgin Mary, I guess you could say. Particular informational, theological manifestation. And it's pretty interesting because I've always had like a very interesting kind of like relationship to sorrow and the idea of sadness and stuff like that, I guess. And there was this picture I saw. You know, we're here on a painting show talking about pictures. There was this sculpture. It was really a sculpture, and it was taken from a weird angle. Maybe that's why part of why it made such an impression on me. But I'm going to use yellow for the stars too, because why not? I can do whatever I want. It's my show. And because it's the seven sorrows, you know, her heart area was like pierced with these seven swords. And it was just so awesome. And it made a really big impression on me, honestly. I'm really into the whole like Marian apparition thing. Not that I'm like devoted to it in like a crazy way. Maybe give me a few months and I will be, maybe. But I think it's just really cool. Obviously, it kind of hits like a lot of the spots that I'm into. And there's one called Our Lady of Akita in Japan. And whether or not people think it's real, some people probably think it's fake, you know. It could be fake, who knows? Like, you know, some nun said she like saw something, like nobody knows, right? But what I thought was cool and what I thought was kind of like theologically sound about it also was like just the idea of like the way it was kind of pitched was like sin, the sins of the world, you know, the bad things people are doing, like aggrieving Jesus and Mary, and how much it like hurt them, you know. And I thought that was just really interesting. You know, it's kind of like a really interesting angle on it. I mean, I'm sure more people that are more like theologically schooled than me are like, well, yeah, that's what it is. But just that angle of like, you know, it's not really about like, oh, you're breaking the rules. It's like you're, you know, hurting the soul and like essence of these like, you know, people that like care about you, you know. And I just thought it was really interesting, and it kind of made me think about things a little bit differently, I guess you could say. The idea of like sin as like a grieving God and like a grieving Mary, and then being like, you know, pained by it. I mean, of course that's the case, but just like, you know, hearing this woman talk about it and thinking about it in that way, I thought was like really interesting, you know. And made me kind of want to just do things a little bit differently in certain ways. I don't really do anything that, you know, like hurts other people, but of course, you know, everyone does certain things. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my little introspective 5 minutes about my theological life that we have to slip into every episode of the show. I was thinking, you know, like I just said, like everyone trying to like cover for themselves, like I don't do anything too bad, you know. But kind of reminded me of a friend. I had this friend. He would smoke like a pack of cigarettes a day, like straight up, and he actually would even like smoke cigarettes while he was on the nicotine patch. Like this guy was the most like addicted to cigarettes out of anyone I've ever met or seen in my life. And he was trying to quit cigarettes a bunch of times, like literally like dozens of times. One time he actually said he would pay me to hang out in his apartment and like literally fight him so that he couldn't go to the store to buy more cigarettes. I didn't do it, but I kind of wanted to help him out. Anyway, though, he would say like, you know, it's, and I heard this from other people too, it's like pretty easy to get, you can get down if you're like addicted to cigarettes, you can get down to like, you know, 2 to 5 a day, you know, but it's getting rid of those last few that's like the really, really impossible part. And he would do that a lot. He would get down to like, you know, 3 or 4 cigarettes a day from like 20, and then just couldn't get down past that mark, and then would go back up. And I kind of feel that way with like certain like vices, you know. It's like I got rid of like 10 of them. I got rid of like all these, but it's like just those last few hanging on that I'm like, oh damn, now this is hard. So that was kind of a funny analogy. Anyway, that's the introspective mystical rant while we're painting in some windows. That looks dope. I'm extremely pleased with that. And I'm thinking I'm gonna bring this orange down onto the pillars, but a little bit lighter. There actually is some like rosary called like the Seven Sorrows of Mary. I guess technically it's called like a chaplet. I'm just a painter. I don't know the correct terms for like literally anything. But I did order one. I was like, it's kind of cool. I don't like to brag about like praying or anything, but I haven't done it yet, so I can't brag about it. But I did order one, and I don't know, it's kind of a lot to unpack, but I just feel like the whole like sorrow thing and like thinking about sorrow is just like an interesting place like in my mystical life. We've talked about it on the show before. I'm not going to go into it right now, but I was kind of like the happy-go-lucky mystical character for so long, and like everything's good, and like I'm New Age and Buddhist and like doing drugs, and sorrow is just an illusion. And now I feel like a lot of my spiritual life is characterized by like wrestling with things like that. So I kind of was thinking, it's interesting. Maybe that would be a good like practice for me, thinking about like the sorrows of like Mary and like, just kind of focusing on that more. I saw some quote by some saint. I should have written it down, but I didn't really anticipate talking about it. But the quote was, if you want to, it was something like, it's probably a better, more intelligently phrased version. These stripes look dope, by the way. It was kind of like, if you want to become different than how you are, you have to take a path that's different than the path that you're on, or something like that. It was more intelligently phrased, but the idea was basically like, if you want to change yourself, you're gonna have. It was more like if you want to change yourself, you have to do something that's contrary to your nature. That's kind of like more what the quote was getting at. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So that's been on my mind a lot. I listened to a few talks about like Mary and the sorrows of Mary and all that stuff, and I don't know, man. It was interesting. It's really interesting. That's it, basically. Ultra means beyond. Titles, devotions associating to them. Yeah, titles and devotions, I suppose you could say, yeah. And I really enjoy the Marian apparition stuff. I mean, like I said, who knows? You can never know if it's true or not, but it's just really dope. All right. Damn, those stripes look sick. All right, this is looking tight. I always feel like, not that I have to rush, but I always feel like I kind of have to get to like a certain point. Because, like, you guys are watching. I want it to be cool. There's always a point where I'm like, all right, now this is looking good. Nice. Okay. I feel like we got a little room to breathe right now. We got a little room to breathe for a second. I am going to throw down a little bit of a darker flame for the candle. Awesome Ninja 57 said, I never know if I should read the full username, but you should add some bright cartoony purple to the columns. The chat always wants me to add purple, and every time I've done it, they've been right. So maybe we will do that. I'm just going to darken this up. Nice. There we go. Okay, now we're talking. Maybe at the end we'll add the sour purple. Let's see. By the way, so in the chat, if you want me to see what you're writing, you have to tag me like Awesome Ninja and other people did. Otherwise, I'm not going to see it. But Ethan, I happened to read your question, and it said, curious, what convinced you of the importance of Mary above other saints? Something, if it's just how you understand things. I don't know. I mean, there is that element to it. I wouldn't really say that. Hold on, I'll answer that in a second. Let's get the skull. Let's get the skull guy going. Let's get the guy with the skull and the Reaper and everything. Let's get some action. The people want some action. Let's get it going. It's looking tight though. How are we doing on time? Perfect. We're moving along. We're pacing the show well. We're moving things along. We got the colors, the vibe, talking about stuff. It's great. It's great. Critiquing my own show live on the air. Okay, so I want to get this kind of skull guy going in here. I could move the camera down, but I kind of think it's cooler seeing everything all together. So I'm just going to go for it. It's a little bit wet here, but I think it's okay. For the skeleton, let's see. I want to have him kind of looking down this way. So I'm just going to throw down. Damn, I really want to put my hand down on the page, but I can kind of feel that it's a bad idea, but I'm just going to do it anyway. So let's put it right here. Perfect. And I don't want to make it too big. Kind of have the skull coming back around. Perfect. And let's I'm gonna give him those kind of like happy cartoony eyes. Yes. Oh, yes. Perfect. It's exactly the flavor that I wanted. Oh man, yes. Oh, dude. I love drawing. Look at that. Tell me that's not a great time right now. Just the simple pleasure of drawing a skull. It's like, what else are you trying to do with your life, honestly? Okay. So it's going to be kind of interesting painting in the skeleton right now because obviously, a skeleton's made up of many bones. And I'm not going to pencil it out just because that's not how I like to do things when we do the show. So I'm kind of just going to go for it. What I'm thinking is we're going to have arm bone, and then he's holding the scythe with this hand. So let's just go for it. I actually do know the bones of the body pretty well, but I'm going to obviously, maybe it's not obvious if you don't draw and paint, but I'm going to oversimplify them when we're doing this right now. So for example, I'm skipping over the clavicle. Normally there would be a horizontal bone right there. That's your clavicle. You can feel it. You see it in girls a lot. But I'm just going to totally skip over that. And I'm going to simplify the hand too. Maybe that's obvious, maybe it's not. But I'm just going to throw down the hand again in that kind of like paw form. I'm going to make it a little bit more angular. Because he's holding the scythe, but also I want to give him those kind of like long bony fingers like that. Doesn't matter how many there are. And the thumb, so when you draw a hand in like this is how I think of it at least, like if you're going with the style. The thumb is kind of going to decide the direction that the scythe is going. So you can imagine if the scythe is going, let's say at like a 20-degree angle from the vertical, that's where the thumb is. You can actually, if you hold something up to your body right now, you can't see my hand against my body, but if you hold something up to your body, you can actually just see how your thumb is. If you're drawing and you don't know how something should be with the body, you can just do it and see how it is. Again, I can never tell what's obvious because I've been studying drawing for so long. But let's just throw his thumb down and we'll put it in like that. Cool. Kind of give me some wiggle room. It'll come up, and I want to have enough room to get like a big, absurdly fat scythe in there. So that's what we're going to do. And the order is going to matter here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. So you can't see me, but I'm actually putting both my hands in front of my body as though I'm holding a scythe right now. And let's just put his other hand up here. I'm just going to do the same thing. I really want to make sure I have room to get that blade in, because obviously that's kind of the whole point of a scythe. I might have not left enough room, but we'll see. If I didn't, it's not a big deal. And I'm just going to go, I have to change colors if I'm painting the scythe. Let's do it though. I have to put the scythe in first because it's going to be in front of everything else. Okay, got some stuff in the chat. Oh yeah, someone asked me about Mary. It's a really good question, man. Yeah, so there is something, maybe people know this, maybe people don't. There is something called hyperdulia. It's like a theological term. Dulia being like reverence for the saints, and then within like Catholic theology, Mary has something called hyperdulia, which means that, yeah, actually, I guess I feel like I should just caveat every time I talk about theology stuff. I'm just a painter, so, don't be like, oh my God, Owen said it. It's definitely true. Not that anyone does that, but I have to caveat. Anyway, with that caveat. Yeah, so I suppose in Catholic theology, to my knowledge, I'm not going to say it to my knowledge every time. Yeah, I guess they would say she's like first among the saints, right? Because she gets hyperdulia and the other saints don't. But for me, I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with that. Honestly, man, for me, it's really just... Oh, dude, I smeared it. It doesn't matter, though. It's really just more like an intuitive, kind of like mystical thing, honestly. I'm just really, really drawn to it for whatever reason. I feel like it really fits in with my spiritual vibe, and I really like it a lot. So I could give you some like theological explanation, like, oh, I read this book, but really, honestly, that's just really what it came down to for me. Let's see, the blade. I didn't really leave myself much room, but I'm going to still put in like a comically fat blade. I want it to be gray, so I'm going to grab the black and let's make it a little opaque. So yeah, I mean, that kind of opens up a whole other bag of questions. I mean, for your like spiritual life, you can't just go on like intuition and stuff, but I think it's pretty theologically sound, like the reverence of Mary and all that stuff. And I know a lot of Protestants like really aren't into it, and they think it kind of like goes like way too far. I'm open to those arguments and stuff, but yeah, honestly, for me, that's really what it came down to. It's just that I just really like it. And I have thought about why. I really like the phrase aqueduct of mercy that's applied to Mary. I think that kind of gets at something about it. I mean, I think that there's just something about it. I mean, there's something about... so for the rib cage, I'm not going to paint in each rib. I actually could. That normally is how I would do it. But actually, I'm going to paint it in kind of like a bird cage, and I'm just going to paint in the stripes on top of it. Normally I would paint in every rib, but why not change it up? You know, we're live. We're doing live stuff. Might as well try some new stuff out. Yeah, so I mean, you know, I think all the sort of like names and reverential terms and stuff really get it kind of why it appeals to me, maybe. Like the whole mother thing and aqueduct of mercy. I really just feel like there is kind of like an openness and like ease there, I guess. I mean, it's probably not really so theologically sound for me to say this, but I don't know, there's something about like God where you kind of like naturally like fear God, you know, and that's like good, you know. So I think there's something about this like motherly female figure that, I don't know. It's just kind of like, I don't want to say more approachable because then people are going to be like, oh my God, you know. But I don't know. I mean, it just kind of fits in with my vibe, honestly. That's really the only answer. Yeah, that's basically it. I have a book here by St. John Maximovich. So he's an Orthodox saint. He's actually not a Catholic saint. And it's called... I put in this hip bone. This is actually anatomically correct. But the thing is, I kind of shouldn't have done that because I really want that huge leg bone coming out like he's walking. So I kind of backed myself into a little bit of a corner here. So I'm going to do something. You know, you wouldn't notice if you just saw the picture, but I'm actually going to kind of do a little perspective trick, and I'm going to tuck the bone behind. So this long bone is actually going to be behind the hip bone, which wouldn't really make sense in real life, but it doesn't matter in the picture. Just telling you what's on my mind. So yeah, this book's by St. John Maximovich, and he makes a case where it's like, you know, revering Mary is kind of like the heart, right at the heart of like Christianity for him. And, you know, he says the church always did it and all that stuff. And, but yeah, like I said, I know a lot of Protestants like really, really, really aren't into it, which I also find interesting. I was watching this debate with James White. I probably totally lost track of the chat, so I'll go back, but just an interesting question you asked me. I was watching this debate with James White, and like my theology is like very like piecemealed together because like I'm a painter, you know, I studied lots of other religions for a long time, and then I became Christian. So like I kind of make the parallel with Buddhism sometimes, where like, you know, like in certain countries they got all the Buddha's texts, you know, piecemeal. So it's not like they got like, here's book 101, here's book 102. You know, they would get like, you know, it would be like with the Bible if you got like just the book of like Ephesians or something and you didn't have the rest of it, and then you kind of have to like piecemeal it together. That's kind of like how my theology is in a way, you know, because I didn't go to school for it, and I've kind of just picked it up as like necessity has dictated for my spiritual life. And I was watching these debates with James White. He's a Protestant debater. He's a Protestant academic, I suppose. And one of the debates was like, did Mary remain a virgin after Christ's birth? And he took the no position, and I was like, what? It's like I didn't even know people thought that. It's like I didn't even know that was on the table. I don't think that, but I just thought it was interesting. I was like, wow, didn't even know that was a thing. Anyway, that's my little answer right there. Anyway, I could go into it more. The whole sorrow thing, I feel like, you know, it really goes against my nature to be like thinking about sadness and stuff. So I feel like it's good for me, but I'll kind of move on. But we can keep talking about it if you guys want. It doesn't matter to me. Painting looks great. You make the lighting look so easy. Thanks, man. Skeleton standing over gold coins and jewels. Yeah, let's get some coins and stuff. Sure, I'm down with that. Okay, this looks dope. That came out really well while I was talking, actually. Here's the thing, though. Kind of got to decide what situation we want around him. The halo thing is convenient. Halo on a skeleton, I mean, no one's going to get confused and think this is like a whole theological statement, but maybe I should be a little bit more creative. Let's do it this way. I actually have a good idea to not use that as like a total cop-out. I'm going to put a window behind him, like one of these, that'll function as a halo, but like low-key it'll be a window. That's actually, I think, a really good call. That's how we're going to deal with the background here a little bit. I probably missed some chats. If I missed your chat, you can just ask me again. It's snowing at home where I live. We get a hint of the winter vibe. Yeah, maybe a hint of it, but I'm really on the fall vibe. I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes either. We'll think about it. I thought someone asked me another question. I don't want to get lost in the chat. Okay. So yeah, since I have to keep going, if I missed your chat, my bad, just ask me again. Someone said, are you still non-denominational? Yeah, I wouldn't really use that term. It's more that I don't belong to any church in particular yet. But it's funny because I don't know if you're American, the guy that asked me that, but like it's almost like in America, like non-denominational almost is like its own denomination, just like really ironic. So I wouldn't say I'm like non-denominational, but I don't really belong to any one group or anything yet. I guess you could say I lean towards Catholic and Orthodox, but I don't think anyone, you know, it's like pants on head, like ridiculous or anything like that. Boom. Oh, it's a good call. Got to make it a little darker, though. It's got to be night behind the skeleton, obviously. Got to get the night situation going. Do you think it'd be weird to go to midnight mass at a different church than my family at Christmas since I'm Orthodox and they're Methodist? No. No. It depends. If you're like officially Orthodox, I mean, I guess you should just ask your priest, right? Which is probably the answer for any question about Orthodox stuff. But no, I don't think it'd be weird. I mean, I don't know what the theological ruling would be, but honestly, I feel like it just depends on your vibe. I mean, I think if you'd rather be with them, you could probably make a case for it, but I don't really know. I think in Orthodoxy there are rules about like praying with people of other denominations, but I actually don't really know. When I was going back for the holidays last time, I almost like, my family is not Christians, so I almost snuck out to midnight mass. I didn't do it though. I would do it this year if I went back though. Okay, nice. I like this black and blue with the white standing out. This is looking dope. I'm going to throw the stars in there too. Have you ever thought about painting Christ in Gethsemane? That kind of fits the sorrow vibe. Dude, honestly, and by the way, like I said, if I miss your chat, I'm not like particularly trying to miss it. I'm just kind of looking at whatever's fresh when I look over there. Yeah, man, the agony in the garden. Actually, the agony in the garden is like a really big one for me. I'm assuming that's what you mean. That's a really big one for me, man, because I really feel like a certain like kinship, I guess you could say, with that. I actually had this. Oh, dude, the blue. We're killing it right now. So yeah, I don't really go into it too much, but I had this whole like medical thing, and you know, I'm like fine, but you know, obviously any medical thing with you is like a big deal, you know, if it's like serious or whatever. So the point is that yeah, man, it was really like getting me down, and I mean, it still gets me down sometimes, but you know, we live in a fallen world, so what are you gonna do? But I was talking to someone about it. And I was like, yeah, it just fucking sucks. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse. But I was like, yeah, it just sucks, man. And she said to me, you know, it's really funny also because, like, sometimes if you have, like, a medical thing, I don't know if anyone has never had a medical thing before. A lot of people haven't. But people don't really know what to say. I used to be one of those people, like I was talking about sorrow and everything, where, like, someone would tell me something bad happened to them, and I'd be like, yeah, that sucks. Like, I don't know what to say, you know? I love these yellow stars and the blue. But what she said to me was, she was like, yeah, you know, that sucks. And she was like, well, you know, something to think about is like even you know, Jesus had the agony in the garden, you know, and, you know, it upset him so much. He was like sweating blood and crying and everything. And she was like, so, you know, maybe that's something interesting to think about, that, you know, even Jesus, when he was on earth, had this moment of like, you know, wrestling with his like physical situation, I guess you could say. And I was like, yeah, actually true, damn. And really made kind of like a big impression on me, I guess, that she said that. She was Protestant too, by the way, just for the conversation we were just having before, so it's kind of why you can't really like discount anybody or anything. And yeah, I do think about that sometimes. It's a mystery on the rosary, in case people don't pray the rosary, they don't know. But every Tuesday, which is today, is the Sorrowful Mysteries. And the first, is it the first one? Yeah, it's the first one. The first one is the agony in the garden. So I do think about that a lot. As for painting it, the thing is, I feel like I get away with a lot because of my style. So I don't really paint Jesus that much. I've only done it one time, actually, because I had to do it for this picture. I did a picture of St. Thomas Aquinas, and there's this moment in his life where, you know, he has this like vision of Christ on the crucifix, basically. It's more complicated than that, but so I had to put him in, and I put him in kind of like minimally, but normally I don't. I don't know why. I guess I could, but I feel like I just get away with a lot, you know, because I kind of do have this very like illustrative style, and I feel like it's appropriate for certain figures, but there's something about painting Jesus. I don't know. Eventually I'll do it, but I'll make it like way more serious. So I haven't really done it yet. I'm kind of like building up to it in my mind in a way. Like I would never do it. I mean, maybe it's obvious, but I would never do it like, you know, casually like this. It would be like kind of a big deal. With the saints, I feel like I get away with a little bit. You know, like I really do love the saints, and, you know, I feel like I kind of, Anyway, that's my answer. I'm thinking about it, but I haven't done it yet. The only real like serious saint image I did one of Saint Herman of Alaska. I've done images of Mary, but again, with the whole like Aqueduct of Mercy thing, I feel very like okay doing it in like an illustrative style as long as it's like being respectful. Yeah, I'm feeling the lighting. I'm gonna move this lamp just so it's not glaring too much. Cool. And let's see, I want to get some darkness coming up from the ground too. I could come back in. I will come back in actually. We'll paint something in like over here. We got a lot of room over here. I guess we talked about money or something like that. A desk would be cool with like something on it. But right now I'm just going to fill in this brown. Nice. I got another super chat. Thank you, Spiced. No questions, just good vibes. Excellent. Thank you. I really do love the internet camaraderie vibes, by the way. It's really something I enjoy. It's like the one redemptive aspect of living in like techno cyber hell, right? Anyway, yeah, I just watched your talk with Jonathan, and I was just wondering. I'm in the same boat, leaning towards orthodoxy. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't talk about it too much on the stream anymore. I mean, not that I avoid it. People ask me, I tell them, but I just, I really want to make sure that speaking of internet camaraderie, that like, the whole way I love debates and all that stuff isn't affecting my like choice of, spiritual denomination too much. So yeah. Really kind of identify with both. I mean, I'm kind of at this point where I feel like, I see the church as like, the church, and then there's these internal schisms within it, but, what are you going to do? I'm just a painter, right? What am I going to do about it? Okay, that looks sick. I'm actually really vibing with this right now. Nice. Let's see. Yeah, if you want Orthodox material, people will definitely send you it. Not in a bad way. I mean, it's great. Okay, let's see, what am I thinking right now? Should we leave it open here? We don't exactly know what we're doing. We talked about the dog thing. Can't really tell. I can't really tell. We'll paint in this pillar. I'm kind of starting to strategize with like not getting my hand in paint. So let's paint in this pillar, then this will be dry. We'll paint in this pillar, and then we'll kind of keep it moving. This is looking pretty sick right now, though, honestly. So let's just quickly get some windows in, and we'll kind of decide what we want to do about that. Someone said, have you heard of the book Christ the Eternal Tao? Hell yeah, dude. I'm going to chastise myself every time I swear, because I want to keep my G rating. I want to keep the G rating I gave myself. Have you heard of it? It's by a monk from St. Herman's Monastery. He's tied in with Seraphim Rose, and it went too high up. But, interesting. It seems like Ortho Cope, since Father Seraphim Rose wrote Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's an interesting book. So in case anyone doesn't know, we didn't do the book intro. I always show a book at the intro, but I forgot. Oh, well. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting book. It's by someone named Hieromonk Damascene. It's called Christ the Eternal Tao. I did read it. In case anyone doesn't want to read the whole book, he does have a talk on YouTube where someone recorded him in some church, and he's talking about the book, and it'll kind of give you the rundown of the book. I'm definitely not saying it's bad. It's a really strange book because the beginning is tight. I'm not saying anything about like the theological claims of the book. I'm just talking about how I experienced reading it. This is a bug in my room. The beginning is all about kind of like the idea of like pre-Christian figures, pre-saging, and like prefiguring Christianity, which I always think is kind of an interesting idea. Some guys do talk about that. Augustine has a quote that I bust out sometimes where he talks about that. So it's not something he just like made up. I'm going to shade in the brown on here. Actually, let's make it like brick color. Let's get like a nice brick color. So I thought that was tight. The whole premise of the book basically is that Lao Tzu, who's the guy who wrote the Tao Te Ching, which is an ancient Chinese philosophy book. I don't know if he says it this way, but it's like, he kind of got as close as he could to like the nature of Christ and Christianity before the incarnation in writing this book about the Tao. I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting. It's kind of one of those books, like sometimes I read books like this because I read a lot of books about weird ideas by different people, where I kind of got through it and I was like, okay, I mean, yeah, you could look at it that way. Yeah, So, like I said, I didn't think it was like bad. I thought it was interesting. And the whole middle of the book is really strange because the whole middle of the book is kind of like he rewrote the Tao Te Ching post Christ's incarnation. So the whole middle of the book is like the Tao Te Ching, but rewritten to be like explicitly about Jesus. So it's pretty weird. I'm not saying weird is bad. I mean, I'm like #1 weird stuff enthusiast. But it was pretty unique and strange. I read it when I was in Colorado, and made me think a lot about Chinese art. That's one thing I really like about Chinese art. It has a lot to do with like natural patterns and ink painting and stuff. And honestly, what I really remember from reading the book is going on this hike and looking at all these fields. And there's something called Li patterns, like Li patterns, where they basically incorporate these natural patterns into their art. And it's kind of just like a catch-all term for any like naturally pattern that almost is systemic, but not really. Like if you see like, a whole wheat field like swept by the wind, or like cracks in the sidewalk, or like things like that. Those are all kind of like Li patterns. And I remember looking out at this field and like seeing the patterns in it where like animals and wind had like gone through it, and how it seemed like really chaotic, but you can actually see the underlying like structure underneath it if you looked for these like larger patterns. And kind of this moment thinking all about like Chinese art, and this book I was reading about how like Chinese sages like predicted kind of like the nature of Christ. I thought, like I said, I wasn't really totally on board, but nor did I think it was bad. So it was a cool, interesting, weird book. It was interesting for me because I think I've talked about it on the stream before, but the Tao Te Ching was like the first exposure. I'm going to go back into this wetness and kind of put in these like bricks. I'm going to move the light. So it's going to be tiny dark for a second, but I just want you to be able to see what I'm doing. The Tao Te Ching was like the first religious text that really opened me up to like religion in general. So I definitely thought I had to read it for that reason. The bricks came out okay. We're going to come back in and kind of like fix that up a little bit. Just going to bring the light back. And what do we want to do with these windows? What do we want to do with these windows? Got a lot of options. I kind of just want to keep it moving, so I want to pull the trigger on something. Let's just put like not Halloween. Let's put like some fall stuff in there. So we can kind of like cement the fall vibe a little bit in here. I'm just going to throw in an orange pumpkin. Not a straight jack-o'-lantern, because I do like the kind of theological vibe we have going, but we'll throw in an orange pumpkin down there. Let's throw in a white pumpkin. What color is it going to be behind the stuff? Because that's what color I have to use. We'll use this cadmium yellow. I've been doing this, well, I guess we're like an hour in, so I'll say it. If you're watching the show, I'm cool talking about it. So one project I've been working on, kind of like low-key in the background, I've just been posting it like on Patreon for now, but I will release it eventually. So I've been doing these kind of like Christian, like, I don't want to call them mandalas, but they kind of are based on like mandalas. And they're coming out really sick, and I'm mentioning it because I'm painting in this yellow behind this like white pumpkin, right? And I was working on it, and I was like, man, I wrapped up the first one yesterday. And I was like, man, this just needs something. Like, I'm almost there. Like, I can't really figure out exactly what this needs. And I had all the windows of all the churches in it dark. They were all like these dark windows, like dark blue like this. And I came in, and in Photoshop, I just like click, 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 made them all yellow. And it was like turning the lights on. It was like, poof, and the whole thing like lit up. And it really looked like all the windows were like illuminated. That's what I thought of right now. I was going to make these windows dark, and I was like, no, let's have the lights on. And it changed the whole feel of it so much. It's actually really cool. All right, so we'll come back and put some details in there. I mean, I'm dodging it, but we got to figure out what we're going to put in here. We kind of have to make a call. It's time. I could have put pumpkin-headed guy. I can't really tell. Dog. We talked about the dog. Sort of almost there. Could put a ghost. Looking at my notes over here, but not really anything picture-y that I could really jump into. Let's, I'll leave it for one more second. If anyone has any suggestions in the chat, I will take it. Anything else in the chat? Let's see. What are your current thoughts on, I feel like I keep hitting the same person, but it's just a coincidence. Thoughts on soteriology and the stuff that people in the church disagree over. It's been lurking your stuff for ages, and I'm kind of an enigmatic personality. Oh, me? Thanks, man. I don't really have any calls about that yet, honestly. Soteriology, in case people don't know, is kind of like the logistics of like how people get saved and stuff like that. I lean more towards the apostolic, i.e. like Orthodox and Catholic side of things, so I'm not really a straight like faith alone or anything like that kind of guy. I think it's honestly my answer is kind of just that it's complicated and we have to like try and be good people. I think whenever people lock it in like a little bit too hard, things kind of get a little bit crazy. Like there are some guys who are like, you know, not really thinking of anyone in particular, but you know, sometimes it becomes kind of like a caricature where it's like, you know, literally all you have to do is like, you know, say X, Y, and Z, and then it's like locked in no matter what. Although some people could make a good case for it, so I don't know. My answer is really I don't really know, honestly. Do I want to make it symmetrical over here? Yeah, let's do it. Why not? Pumpkin. Oogie Boogie Man, that's kind of tight actually. If you do werewolf, that's actually pretty tight. Yeah, we'll do dog-headed. That's sick actually. That also hits the dog man stuff. That's perfect. Great answer. Great answer. So come in here and throw this down. Let's see, anything else I wanted to make sure we hit before we just kind of get to talking randomly about stuff? Not really. The big image this week was that image of Virgin Mary, honestly. That really made a big impression on me. I was thinking about it. I was kind of thinking about it all day. There's a statue, like I said, of her with her heart pierced by the 7 swords and it being the 7 sorrows. That was the image of the week for sure. It made a huge impression on me. Should pull it up. But definitely do something with that. Okay, got the light in there. I'm going to throw down the candlelight in here too. Otherwise, I'm just kind of trying to get into the Halloween vibe, honestly. All I do, though, is I watch a few Halloween episodes of a few shows, and that's basically it. I have a costume. I don't want to dox myself, but it's looking pretty sick. Goes with my wife's costume, obviously. I'm going to a Halloween party. There's only going to be a few people there, but I am looking forward to it. Werewolf head, thanks for the answer. Cool, let's keep it moving. All right, werewolf head is perfect. Let's just go for it. Not really werewolf, you know, we won't need to lock it in fully as werewolf, but we'll kind of just throw in the dog head. What's he going to be doing now? We'll just swing it. So dog head. Oh, I got to bring the lights back in. Boom, a little bit brightness back in. Cool. Let's just go for it. Maybe I should plan out what he's doing, but I'm not going to. So we got the bump, the eye part comes up, and then we get the big ear. Boom. My dog's ears point up, so I always paid dogs with pointy ears now. Mouth open. Nah, let's do mouth closed. Nice. This kind of scruff coming down. It's a little werewolfy. Cool. And then what's he wearing? We'll kind of default to like the kind of friary robe thing. I think that's kind of a good look, especially for the rest of the picture. So we'll kind of have it coming down. And I'm really set up perfectly to have him holding something. Like, I could really perfectly come in and just have the arm. I want this to be darker because I'm probably going to fill in the rest of the robe gray, so I want the arm lines to be really dark. Yeah, perfect. Nice. Put some spots in on his face. Get the eye right here. Nice. Perfect. It can be a little bigger. Just a little bit. Yeah. Got to get the black nose in if it's a dog. Nice. I like putting in the black ears too. Nice. My dog doesn't really have black ears, but I found it looks good. Picture style. Got a little spot color back here. Just a little. Yeah. Nice. Nice. But what am I gonna put in here? What's he holding? I don't know. He could be holding a candle. But the other guy's holding a candle. Maybe a book. Book. What's Halloween? Oh yeah, we're talking about Hallows Eve. You don't want to make him holding actually. I read about this thing called souling. I guess it like kind of prefigured trick-or-treating, where in Europe they would bake these like cakes and people would go around and like collect these kind of cakes. That's all I know about it. I didn't plan on putting it in the picture, but that's what he's holding. He's holding like some kind of like festive bread. He's holding some festive bread. And I'll have the other arm up too. Maybe he's doing something with his other hand. Yeah, perfect. We're going to find that image of the Virgin Mary you spoke of. Actually, honestly, I think if you... There's like a wiki page for like Wikipedia page for like Lady of Sorrows or something like that, and I think it's on there. It's a sculpture, and there's like swords like pointed at her heart, kind of. I'm like 99% sure it's on there. Okay, in here we can have the robe coming down. Perfect. Plan on carving my pumpkin in the image of the Immaculate Heart. That's kind of sick, actually. Someone said. We'll kind of just get these little feet down here. Sort of ambiguous if they're human feet or dog feet. Nice. Okay, cool. And let's see. Nice. Yeah, I'm feeling the dog thing. I'm worried though if I make his robe, I don't know. I'm worried if I make his robe gray, then he'll look removed from the rest of the picture because he'll be just black and white, whereas everything else has like color elements to it. I think I'm going to take this color from the scythe and just pour it over into his robe. So I'm going to grab this raw umber. You can tell it's raw umber. It's more yellow than the burnt umber that we used, in case anyone's really keeping score on the color front. And what I'm going to do, because it is going to inevitably merge with the black, I'm just going to throw down some pigment and then come in with the water and just kind of accept that it'll be this kind of gray-black situation. Cool. Perfect. Perfect. Let's see, anything else crazy going on with me? Not really. I don't bring it up on Twitter because it makes it seem like I'm bragging, but I've been trying to do like prayers and stuff every day. That's been really tight. I feel like it really does make a difference. Just saying that, so in case you're on the fence about it, push you over the edge. Art-wise though, image-wise, what else has been going down in the studio? Look if anyone says anything else in the chat where they tag me, but otherwise I'm just going to go off on whatever topics have been on my mind recently. Image-wise, honestly, I've just been thinking about trying to write up a few more comics. I'm trying to get the first year of comics book going. I was telling my wife, it's kind of annoying how like my brain works creatively, because like all the comics I've been posting, and I have like 4 or 5 more, I wrote them all in like a week. Like I literally just sat down and I was like boom, 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 boom. And that's kind of how my brain works. But now I'm going back and I'm like, okay, like I need a few more. Like, come on. And it's kind of hard to like force it. So that's been on my mind a little bit. Damn, I'm feeling this dog in the friar robe over here. Have you been in church since the pandemic started? No, dude, it sucks. I was going to a Catholic church that I like that was near me, but I stopped going because of the Rona. And it's kind of interesting because, you know, I haven't talked much about that whole situation. I'm kind of like neutral about it. I haven't really been forced to take a stand on it, you know, whether like, oh my God, like don't make me stay at home versus like, you know, whatever. Just because whatever I think about it, I really don't want to get a positive test because I have to do all this medical stuff and it would just make it all so much more complicated for me. So like to whatever extent, you know, it's exaggerated or real or don't, you know, wear a mask or don't, I kind of have to do it all because I just, like I said, I just really, really don't want to get a positive test. So I haven't been, but I did like going and I really want to get going. And I feel like it honestly, like, you know, however it is for me, I feel like it also kind of like really helps my wife kind of get into it, honestly, just because she's very like anyone. I mean, anyone. It's actually, honestly, it's funny I said that because it really is probably more true for me than her, but like just feeling like you're part of like a community, you know. I guess that's the other thing that's been going on with my spiritual life since you asked that question is like I really feel like pained that I'm not part of a spiritual community. And maybe it's good for me that I feel that way because I've been like my whole spiritual life has been characterized by like isolation in the sense that like I kind of just go in my room and like read these weird books and like do my own thing and like, but now I'm kind of realizing like why in Christianity you're not supposed to be like isolated spiritually, just because like I really do like, you know, not that I'm like suffering too hard, but I really do like I can see why you're not supposed to be just like isolated, like floating as a little like node. So yeah, I really do want to get going back there, or another church, whatever, go anywhere. But no, I haven't been. I would like to go though. Okay, poking in. Nice, that looks dope. Oh, yo, I got another super chat. That's dope. Thank you guys. I'm really, I really appreciate that. It's really, really awesome. Since this has happened 3 times, I'll just say, you know, any funds I get, like if you buy a shirt, or I'm not trying to make an advertisement, but anything that comes in just like helps the studio run a lot. So it's really tight. I do appreciate it. It's funny running the art studio. There's always like so many little weird expenses that it's really dope, basically. Anyway, Pedro said this is one of my favorite stream paintings. Thanks, man. Yeah, it actually is coming out pretty cool, right? It's coming out pretty cool. Okay, so let's see. I'll live up. I gotta live up to the. But actually, it is going really well. Let's see, where are we at on time? It's 8:30. Okay, that's perfect. So let's see. Not that we'll move it along too fast, but let's say we got the like kind of hardcore detailed parts down. So I think if we step up the pace a little bit, we'll be perfect. This is kind of like the main like detail-y part anyway. So what I'm really thinking is I'll throw this down right here. I like the way the light's looking in here. This could be a little bit more like teased out a little bit, but it's okay. And then on the outside, I want to throw down a big tree, get the fall gradient on both sides. Maybe like some quick kind of like saintly haloed figures up top. And then, I don't know, maybe that'll be it. We'll see. I don't really know how the sky is going to turn out, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, let's keep it moving. Right now, I'm going to throw down it's kind of like middle pillar-y building. And I actually remember, because I was looking at it so much, what the Abbey looks like that I pulled up before. So I'm kind of just going to throw it down. It's one of these buildings. It's very like, I don't know, I'm sure buildings all over the world are like this, but I think of it as kind of like French, English, European in general, really, actually. Kind of like church style, where you get this kind of front piece. Like this. I guess all churches. I guess really all churches are like that. I don't really know what I'm talking about. And then it's going to come up here. Boom. Boom. Throw in a little window right here. Cool. Perfect. Perfect. And up top, so one thing I like that I noticed with the kind of illuminated manuscript, you know, early medieval vibe kind of thing is when so everything's like flat, right? And then they'll punch into a little bit of like 3D-ness, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Not too 3D, but what I mean is I'm going to throw this down like this. Boom. Boom. So it's almost like at the top of the church there's this like 8-sided building, and then if you put that into this like flat perspective, it kind of ends up looking like this. This side's a little bit bigger, but it's fine. And that line was a little curved, but it's fine. Yeah, that's good enough. Maybe when we shade it in, we'll be able to get a little bit more. And then on the top, I'm just going to go straight. Oh, perfectly fits. Perfectly fits. And over here. Perfect. Perfect. It's a little bit shaky, but you know, it's part of how we're going to get that vibe I was talking about of like 400 AD painting. So, and we'll throw in some windows. It's a big call if I make the windows in perspective or not, but I'm just going to do it. It would be slanty bottoms. If I made them flat, you know, normal people probably wouldn't notice, but it does affect the vibe a little bit. It's just how much like perspective you want to put into it. That also happens with like dragon scales and things like that. If I have like a whole big dragon and I make it so all the scales are like a flat pattern, like copy pasted onto it, it has like a very different feel than if you go in and like put it over the dragon like in perspective. And I'm just going to make the sides kind of dark. And then I'll make the 2 front pieces a little bit less dark. I'm going to kind of try and move a little bit more swiftly, but we're actually going perfectly. We started a minute late, so if we go a minute over, it's not a big deal. Cool. Dry off the brush and just straight with water. I'm going to come in and we'll make this a little bit lighter. Yeah, perfect. Quickly. I want to keep that delineation on the right side. That's why I painted that in so quickly, because the water will pull the pigment over. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Same deal over here. I'm going to lose that distinction a little bit more over here, but I actually kind of like it. It makes it look like it's actually like lit. Cool. Up here, we're just going to throw in, I'm going to wait for the windows. I don't want to push it too hard. Oh, I'm stretching my foot for a second. Come to my church in Texas. We have our churches open. Yeah, I would actually if I was anywhere near there. Just got my God versus Alien shirt, and it's epic. Thank you. Yo, that's dope, man. Thanks for picking one up. Yeah, I have one of those. I wear it around the house all the time. I think I mentioned it before, but because I order like test prints of the shirts, I literally have like every shirt in like different colors and everything. So like people tag me on Twitter like, yo, I just got this shirt. And it's always like, yeah, I'm wearing it right now. Awesome. Which is cool. I saw some guy's band and they had these really cool shirts and I was like, oh, I should get one. And I was like, dude, I literally have like 60 to 70 t-shirts at home. Like if my I should have gotten one though. Okay. So I like that fade that we just got. Oh, the fades, the watercolor fades. You can't buy that. You can't buy the feeling of that dope watercolor fade. Perfect characteristic of this color, by the way. It's called Venetian red. On the stream, sometimes I call it Pompeii red. Oh, look at that. It's literally like the walls in Pompeii. So good. So good. Okay, what else needs to happen right now? I'm going to fade up this pillar over here. Similar to punching into 3D, do you punch into alternative proportions, El Greco style, convey symbolic meaning into your works? Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I've kind of mentioned this before, but like if you think about a Renaissance painting, El Greco is a good example, even though you used him for a reason. It's not like strictly realistic, but still, it's like you're looking through a window into like a three-dimensional scene. I like to toy with that, but I always kind of err on the side of being more like something written, more on the side of symbolic. This is kind of a good example, Sorry, I feel like I was going to sneeze. So I do toy with that a lot. When I'm doing more creative stuff, not that this isn't creative, but I do like to toy with the perspective and stuff like that. Like maybe if I'm drawing like a girl on her dress will be like a window, and then through the window is like, a scene, or things like that. I like toying with the space a lot. So yeah, for sure. Definitely. That's one of my favorite things about doing art, and what I feel like makes me really an illustrator more than a painter is one of the more subtle aspects of what an artist does. And if you go to a museum with someone, you should take, if you're, well, it doesn't matter actually if you have a wife, if you have a woman in your life, you should take her to museums on a date or something. But if you're trying to impress them, if it's like your first date, one of the things that is kind of like going on in the background of art is the way an artist works with the picture plane. That's kind of what separates different cultures' art a lot. And that's something I like to play with. I like to play with how I'm using the two-dimensional surface to convey information to the viewer. A really good example of that is like, like what we were just talking about. How is like a Japanese like ink drawing different than like a Da Vinci painting? Well, Da Vinci is using the picture plane as a window, but the Japanese artist doing like an ink drawing, he's using the picture plane as a surface. He's using it as a piece of paper, and he's like acknowledging that flatness. Someone mentioned Hokusai, perfect example. He like uses the flatness of the image in like a very sophisticated way. It's part of what makes him so great. Nice. In case anyone doesn't know, Hokusai made the really famous Japanese wave print that you're probably thinking of. If you're hearing Japanese artist wave, you're probably thinking of Hokusai already. Anyway, so yeah, definitely. What's a good example of something I've done with that recently? I'm kind of looking around my room. I have a few sketches and stuff I could bust out, but yeah, for me that mostly manifests like when I open up a cool space and then use it as a window into something else, and I try and push that element in my work a lot, especially if I'm sketching. Okay, so I'm shading in these rooftops. I didn't really get as much color delineation as I wanted there. I could come back in with the paper towel, which is actually probably what I'm going to do right now. Got it over here though. You can see this front piece has like totally different value, technical art term, the quality of being light or dark. Here, I'm just going to scoop this up. Nice. That's good enough. Okay, let's keep it moving. We're keeping it moving. What else is going to go down right now? Let's finish up the windows. We had what, 20 minutes left? That's perfect. Let's see how far we can get in 20 minutes. Finish up the windows. Then we are going to see about the sky situation. I'm going to quickly throw down the border left and right, fat trees. See what the sky situation is, and then I think we'll be good. I don't want to rush it too much, nor do I want to take too long, so kind of just give it the natural amount of time that it needs. I'm just going to throw in the light. So I love the idea of these windows being like full of light. You know, it's so satisfying to just paint in. You know, it really feels like when you use this warm yellow, this cadmium yellow, you can really like feel the warmth. You know, it's like there's light like pouring out of them. Especially if you throw down a night sky, which is obviously what we're going to do in a minute. Probably put something in this big window. It's a pretty big window, so can't really waste that space. What else needs to happen? We're going to come back, and I'm going to tighten up the candle in the middle. Let's see. Just got to fix this little flame. Kind of got damaged while we were painting. There we go. Perfect. Let's see, what else did we miss? Oh, the windows. Got to get this window up here. Let's see, what else should we talk about? Any other seasonal stuff? Harvest. Is October really harvest time? I was thinking about that. That's my like Jerry Seinfeld bit for the show. Is October, like we're on Seinfeld, is October harvest time? No. Harvest time is August and September. I don't know. Some things get harvested in October. You can play that out in your own head if you want. But I actually really don't know. Okay, so we'll throw this down here. Perfect. Had to move that so you could see it. Okay. So let's see. This is now, we're not rushing, but we're going to move it along. So I'm noticing a few things that need to happen. What needs to happen? A, probably the orange stripes on the bridges. B, these boxes. I want to put something in the boxes. It's a very small space. I could just put a circle. I could just put a square. You know what I'm going to do? I know what I'm going to do. You don't know yet because I didn't do it. But I'm going to grab the orange. I'm going to get it kind of narrow, and I'm going to put in this shape. I don't know what to call it, but that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put in, is it dry? Yeah, it's dry. I'm going to come in and do this. I'm going to throw in a rectangle. Perfect. And another rectangle on top. It's not like officially a cross, but it's kind of just reads as like a geometric design, but then if you actually look at it, it kind of is a cross. And then once it's dry, I'll come back in. Perfect. It's perfect. And I'll shade in the corners of that. So it kind of will stand out a little bit, but not too much. That's also one thing that you get good at when you're, well, I mean, I think I'm good at it, but one thing you start to consider more when you're doing art is like, where are you drawing attention, and then how can you work in like little details that just kind of recede into the background. It's almost like the hard part. It's like sometimes you feel like everything you do is like kind of has like a spotlight shown on it, and being able to work in like minor details, little things that aren't like screaming for attention. It's kind of the hard part in a way. Like if I did this again, I don't know, I like that I put it in orange, but if this was like a real, you know, graphic or something I was working on, I'd probably change it to like burlap sack color or like some kind of ochre or something like that. That's what burlap sack color is, by the way. But here, looks dope. We're trying to make things loud, look good for the stream, so it looks dope. I'm also thinking, instead of the orange stripes on the bridge, I'm actually going to use this Venetian red. And I'm just going to come in and just kind of paint in kind of a similar pattern, a little bit wider, a little bit lighter. Perfect. And I want that crisp line. Give me that line. Perfect. Same deal here. It's going to be too dark, but it's okay. It's okay. Perfect. On this picture, and it's going to look hot. I'm going to put a little clip right there. Yeah, perfect. And same deal over here. On this picture I did yesterday, I had this like sinning guy like stuck wrestling this demon like all the way down at the bottom of the picture. And I made the alternating marble down there like red and this dark like red-gray. And then up at the top, I had this priest, and where he was, I made it like blue and this blue-gray, and it really captured the effect of like these different zones and like the feeling, you know. That's what I was thinking about right now. That's why I used orange on the first part over here. Okay. Man, this looks dope. Okay, let's throw in the tree. I should get a bigger brush, but I'm not going to. I'm just not going to. I could even throw down more paint, but I'm not going to. Let's just use what we have right over here. So I say this on the show all the time, but you know, once you start worrying about like, oh, am I going to ruin it? Is it going to be good? That's when you're kind of, it's game over anyway. So I'm just going to go for it right now. I'm just going to throw down some yellow back here. And I just really want this big, loud tree. I could do both sides at the same time. I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to throw down this yellow. This is like the top of the tree. Okay, this is going to be a little bit crazy. So I'm just going to make sure. I'm not really worried about the edges. I can come back and do the edges if they don't look good, but I really want that fade. Now I'm going to have this yellow here. And like I was saying with the details, I could have come on the outside and made it like, you know, tight with the bumps like I normally do, but I kind of just wanted it to be a little bit more painterly. That's kind of what I wanted. Okay, nice. I'm going to come in with the orange, and I'm not even really mixing it. Oof, that's a big jump in color, so I'm actually just going to work on the fly right now. And I'm going to throw down the orange. I mean, actually, it's not that big of a jump. It kind of looks good. Let's just go for it. I kind of compensate for it by letting the paper shine through a little bit more and bleeding it up a little bit there. Perfect. Same deal here. Perfect. Perfect. Where's the cadmium red? Oh, it's not even out. It's not even out. I need that cadmium scarlet. This is basically vermilion, in case you are a painter and are wondering why I'm using cadmium scarlet. Okay, boom. It's a little dark, though. I actually wish I had vermilion, but I don't. Perfect. Oh, yes. Dude. So great. Not the art, just like the act of painting is like so satisfying. So satisfying. And then I have Spectrum Red right over here, which is not a real pigment, but I have it here. And you know what I'm going to do on the fly? I'm just going to throw in some alizarin crimson. I really should just hit it with the alizarin crimson on the bottom. I'm kind of worried it's too wine color, but let's see. Can't be scared. I'm just going to go for it. Just going to go for it. This is that dark color I wanted last stream. If you were here last time, I was complaining that I wasn't getting the dark color I wanted. Actually, it's not even really dark enough, but it's okay. It's perfect. 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 Oh, yes. Dude. Oh, man. That was so satisfying. I really can't even begin to tell you. Okay. Okay. Nice. And I guess I kind of have to throw in a trunk or something. I honestly don't even really want to, but I'm going to. I kind of want to just leave it like that just because I feel like it's kind of cool if your eye reads in that it's a tree, but I will just kind of throw in just in case. Nice. Nice. Perfect. And I'm even getting some of the red down in the trunk. I don't really care. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I kind of like how it's like brushy and like painterly out there. Okay, so here's the thing. We have kind of an interesting little... oh, I'm going to paint in these bricks over here while I'm talking. What time is it? Oh, perfect. This is perfect timing. We have kind of an interesting little situation here because what I've been doing recently with these paintings like this, with the architecture-y style, is you can actually see they kind of nicely stand out. I mean, from the background. You know, we kind of have this nice situation where this is like removed almost from the background. It's like floating as its own like self-contained composition. Oh, I'm going to color in this guy's bread over here too while I'm talking. For that, I'm going to use yellow ochre. Nice like bready color. So how I put in the sky right now. Oh, I got blue in it. That's unacceptable. how I put in the sky right now is kind of matters how I want to do it. Because I could put it in just as like a dome. I could put it in brushy and like painterly. Let's get a little more yellow in there. It's a nice like warm piece of bread. It's pretty much the same exact color as his outfit, but it's all good. So actually it looks perfect. It's a perfect little piece of bread. So this would be a dope children's book, by the way. Okay, so how do I want to throw in the sky right now? I'm kind of tempted. Could just throw in the dome. It might look a little bit too it might look too high contrast if I put in this dark sky with this vault. Actually, when I put that in with my brush, I think it'll look kind of dope. I'm really torn. It's a big call, but we saved it till the end. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of block it in right over here. Just going to block it in. Yeah, I think I'm going to do it. I think that, man, I'm really, honestly, I whenever I'm on the stream and I don't know what to do, I usually downplay it because I don't want to make a decision and then have revealed that I didn't know what to do, but I actually really don't know what to do right now. I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go with my intuition here. I like this yellow. Oh, just make sure I don't get paint on my arm. I'm going to kind of imply that there's more yellow trees behind here. I think that's a really good call. And I'm just going to fade up the blue sky, man. I'm just going to fade up the blue sky from the bottom. I think that's the move. Yeah, I like that. I like implying there's this kind of yellow tree over here. We're going to kind of just throw in a little bit of the orange. Yeah, perfect. And let's see, and if I want to do that, I really do need a bigger brush. So I'm going to break out the bigger brush. Part of me wants to kind of make the sky black, but I don't know. I think I'm going to go... I'm going to go dark blue instead. Let's do it. Let's just do straight... Oh, dude, indigo. That is definitely the way to go, but it's almost empty. Let's see. Yeah, let's do ultramarine blue. If it's almost empty, it's a sign that we shouldn't do it. I'm going to do ultramarine. So I'm going to kind of try and get the dark, fade it up, and then maybe I'll even put a little bit of an orange glow in there. Let's see. I really don't know how it's going to go, but let's just go for it. Thrusting ourselves into the wild unknown. It's 8:52. We're going to go a teeny minute over, but not too long. I never want to like cut it too short. My dog does this thing. My house right now is like completely and totally dark. It's like pitch black. And she'll just sit in the dark. And, like I have the light on in the studio and like it's nice and bright in here, but she'll just like sit in the dark. It's kind of weird, honestly, but whatever. Okay, so we're going to throw in, how's that look? Perfect. I'm going to throw in the blue. Kind of want it to blend in with the tree a little bit. And now I want it to fade out. That's going to be a little bit of the hard part. Oh yeah, cool. I'll probably have to put some blue down here, but I think we made the right call. Let's see. We won't know until all the blue is down, but... And also we could just paint over it if it doesn't look good, but I think it will look good. We kind of got this like gray, very desaturated blue. I thought it'd be a little brighter, but I actually kind of like it. Okay. Yeah, that looks sick. Let's see. Dare I? Where's my paper towels? Dare I try and lighten it a little bit at the top? Is my dog emo? No, my dog is like more hostile than that. She's very hostile to anyone that isn't a member of our house. So I don't think she would be emo. Maybe she'd be like a street punk or something. Okay, that looks dope. I'm actually feeling that. And we'll bring the blue down. This is definitely the right call. Same deal over here. I'm loving this like blue-gray that I got going on. You can see that yellow line a little bit, but I actually kind of like it. It kind of gives you a feeling of like an underdrawing or like an underpainting or something. And I want this to be really dark down here. My wife that is asking if you're using oils or watercolors, and I don't know. That's a good question, man. Yeah, so probably the reason that she's asking, or maybe, you know, a lot of people ask me that a lot, is because I'm using a paint that's not very common. It's called gouache. It's like Gouche. And it's pretty cool because what they really are is, I don't know if your wife paints or not, but other people might be interested. They're like opaque watercolors. So what that means is if I put them down thick, they basically act like paint and they'll dry very quickly. So I can do a painting where they're all thick, and right when I put it down, I can kind of just watch it dry. It dries really, really fast. That's relevant in case people don't know about painting materials, because oil paint will literally stay wet for like months. But if I put it on thin, like up here, you can see that it behaves like watercolor. So it's a really, really cool form of paint that most people don't know about, because you can go back and forth between opaque, it handles like normal paint, versus turning it into watercolor. So I really like it because it lets me kind of play very fast and loose with like what I'm doing. Here being a perfect example. Like when I want to throw down this smoky sky, I can just turn it into watercolor. But then if I came back in, and let's say I wanted to paint like a little fire on top of this guy's black robe, I could do that. With watercolor, you really wouldn't be able to do that because the watercolor is naturally transparent. So it lets you do a lot. It's really common in illustration stuff, especially like back in the day, but now people don't really use it. Okay, I'm going to move this light a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Now you can really see what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to bring that color down. I initially started using it since you asked me. We haven't talked about it probably since like one of the first episodes, but so I don't want to bring it down too much, but I want just a little bit of that color bleeding out on the outside, just like a hint of it to kind of marry the whole thing together. I initially started using it because I was really into Himalayan art and Tibetan art and stuff like that. And it's kind of the most similar thing to medieval pigments, medieval being Europe or, you know, Central Asia or anything like that. It's kind of the most similar to like what's called egg tempera, like ancient, old school, like medieval paint, because it dries really chalky if you're putting it on a board. So the way I was using it initially, I would take like a wooden panel that had been prepped to receive paint. And, you know, you can do like the medieval style painting and stuff on it. I don't know how much art people have looked at, but you know, if you go look at like very, very medieval art, this is a really cool tie-in actually. So I'll kind of just fill in like some last little details and then see where we're at. I got some spots over here, but it's all good. Looks kind of cool actually. If you go back and look at like really, really old like medieval stuff, it's shaded as though, you know, like let's say I was going to put in like, actually the candle's a perfect example. It's kind of shaded like that, where you have like orange and then you come in and put the darker orange and then you put the red. It's better than that, but you know, that's kind of how it's shaded because their paint dries really, really quickly. They were using a form of paint called egg tempera, which was the glue in it was literally eggs. What different forms of paint kind of, the main thing that separates them is what the glue is basically. So the glue dried in like 2 seconds. You know, you can literally put a stroke down and you can watch it dry right in front of your face. It'll dry like instantly. And then when the Renaissance happened, that's when they invented oil paint. And that's why you get all the like very, very polished, smoky backgrounds. You know, the girl's face looks real. In the distance, there's smoke over the river. Because now their paint would take like months to dry instead of taking 5 minutes to dry. So that was a big factor in like the stylistic shift in painting and stuff. And I was kind of trying to go more old school, so I started using gouache. Okay. I don't know how good that explanation was because I was painting while I was doing it, but hopefully it was okay. I'm trying to get not so much glare. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Oh, man. I'm looking at the... Okay, so there's a few little details. If anyone wants to ask me anything else, I'll look in the chat. There's a few little details, but then we're going to be pretty good. This was a really good one. This is a really good one so far. I don't want to jinx it yet. So a few little details. I'm going to outline the white pumpkin in orange. Oh, man. It's okay. Looks fine. We'll make the candle orange. Let's just cement the color scheme. My logic right now is I just don't want to leave these things white in the windows because it looks kind of like unfinished. So I'm going to come in here, same deal. Perfect. The other nice thing about gouache, since I went on the whole pitch for it, is you can paint onto paper. Right now I'm painting onto paper, right? But if I was doing it really tight and controlled and like, you know, safe style, I could do a whole painting on paper with like oil paint or something. You can paint on paper technically, but it gets kind of dicey. You kind of have to know what you're doing, in my opinion. It's not really the same as like painting. Cool. On like a board or a panel or something. Okay, down here at the bottom, got to finish these pumpkins up. What time is it? It's 9 o'clock, so we'll probably go 10 minutes over. Okay, throwing down the light in the window. Perfect. Cool. It's also funny because when I wrap these up, so it's 9 o'clock where I am, I'm always like revved up because I've been talking and like I'm interacting with you guys, and so it's funny because it's like kind of not late, but you know, it's like later for me. Yeah, look at that. Got that little burst out there. And I'm like revved up when I finish. So okay, same deal. Throw it on the stem right here. I'm kind of putting these details a little bit looser. It's all good with me. You kind of get a nice effect. You can see, you know, if you start to like work with the watercolor, you can see it almost looks like I intentionally put in this like shadow back behind this white pumpkin or something, but you're watching me. Obviously I didn't. We're looking pretty good right now. I want to put in the moon. We talked about putting in a full moon, but the thing is I don't want to draw too much attention to the sky. I kind of like how the sky is very faint and light. So whoever was pushing for the jack-o'-lantern moon, we'll do that next time. Next week, I think next week is the show right before Halloween, so we'll just go like absurd. Like we'll just go nuts on like Halloween vibe. But here I kind of wanted to really make sure we landed on that like intersection of theological and spooky, and I think we did a pretty good job. I was going to even put some ghosts and stuff around, but I don't know. I feel like we landed in a kind of a classy space, so I don't really want to do that. Someone said thoughts on Prelest. Maybe we'll... what am I using as a palette on the left? Yeah, it's basically just a... Can I show you? I'll show you when I'm done. Actually, I can't because it's wet. It's called a disposable palette. If you look up disposable palette, that's what it is. It's like basically like 10 sheets, more than that. It's like 20 sheets of wax paper, and you can flip through them. It's really convenient because after the show, I can just peel this off and throw it away. That probably sounds kind of wasteful, but the paint is like really, really toxic, so it's kind of just what you have to do. But it's called a disposable palette. If you DM me on Twitter, I can recommend you stuff if you're trying to buy like art stuff, basically. Okay, so last thing I want to do right now, I'm going to throw down the moon. Let's make it a moon getting bigger. That means it's going this way. You can always remember because it either makes a lowercase b for bigger or a lowercase d for dying. But we're going to put in a bigger one. Just because, you know, God stuff is a little optimistic. We got to be optimistic. And I want it to be super thin. I almost want it to be like transparent, but yeah, it's perfect. I'm going to come back up this way. Perfect. It's literally perfect. And actually, I'm going to come in with my paper towel and I'm going to pick it up to give it that transparency. So I kind of did the whole gouache pitch. You can see this is another advantage of gouache. I can come back and do things opaque over the watercolor. Actually, technically in watercolor, there is an opaque white called Chinese white that they use for this exact purpose, but it applies to all the colors. Oh, did I make it too light? Oh, it's so light. Oh, man, I really can't tell. I think I made it too light. I think I got to come back in. I'm going to come back in. This is it. This is the last detail. But you know what? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm literally going to do the same exact thing I just did. I'm going to pick it up again. So let's see. Let's see if I can pick it up a little bit less. It's either going to be too dark or too light. Oh, perfect. Dude. Perfect. That is literally exactly what I'm talking about right now. Oh, dude, are we done? I think we're done. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, I'm going to fill in these windows up here. Let's see. I'll hit one more question. I was wondering what your thoughts you had on Prelest. Yeah, dude, Prelest is like a huge thing for me. In case anyone doesn't know, Prelest is usually a... I'll kind of answer this question. I'll make sure I didn't miss any details, and then we'll wrap this up. If anyone has other questions, you can ask me. But you know, we're gonna start landing the plane. Yeah, I mean, long story short, Prelest. In case people don't know, I don't know if there's an equivalent for Western theology. It's really a term that I got from Eastern theology. I suppose you could say that's where it comes from. But I mean, I suppose that is where it comes from, i.e., Eastern theology, like Orthodoxy. But basically, it's like spiritual delusion. And I really have a really strong attachment to that term because in the world that I came from of like, everything from like, psychedelics, Buddhism, mystical stuff, New Age stuff, people kind of just being confused and trying to figure out spirituality and stuff like that. There's really no concept of being skeptical of your own spiritual experiences, and that's kind of like what prelest entails. Someone comes along and say, hey, you had this experience, or you feel this way, but maybe you should be like a little skeptical of it. That's like what it manifests for me as, and I really feel like that's what's missing for a lot of people, and especially for me in my own like spiritual life. Not anymore, because now I'm like very skeptical of my experiences, but yeah, it's really important, man. It's really easy to delude yourself. I mean, the thing is, I feel like that's part of also what Christianity's strength is in some ways. It's like, naturally working on, like, you're at home, let's say, and you're working on your own spiritual life, and let's say you're doing the rosary every day and you're reading 100 pages of St. Augustine every day or something, that could really like go to your head, and then you go out somewhere and you're at the supermarket and you're like, well, none of these people at the supermarket even know who Augustine is. You know what I mean? They don't know anything about this stuff. So you really need to temper your spiritual practice with something that keeps you with like a level head, because it's really easy to like go off the rails, in my opinion. And I think that's built into Christianity in a lot of ways. So yeah, for sure. Really important. That smoky crescent moon you had last week or the previous week was dope. Yeah, that was sick. We'll do something like that again. And the moon kind of went away. We're going to add it one last time. That's really the last detail. I guess I'm trying too hard to make it opaque. So I'm going to try it the other way. Instead of picking it up again, I can see it, but I feel like you can't see it. Let's try one more time. One more time. Perfect. I think when it dries, it'll be less opaque, but I kind of still want to pick it up a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm going to do the same exact freaking thing again and pick it up too much again. Is that a good landing spot? Maybe. Okay. Yeah, that's how we're doing it. Nice. Come in a little bit more. Okay. Hands off. Hands off. Okay. Standing up for a second. Oh, I dropped a little bit of paint on our dude's face right here. Okay. Honestly, I think that we're good. There's just one last thing I want to do. I want to just outline the candle flame in the center, see if I can just drive that up a little bit. But otherwise, I think we freaking crushed it out. I think this turned out awesome, honestly. Really turned out a lot better than not a lot better than I thought, but you guys watch the show, I just go in, I don't exactly know what's going to happen. Okay, I just want to outline this very carefully. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. This is perfect. And yeah, I'm also trying to do this thing where when I end the show, I move this palette, because you can see that right now, you're like looking at it and it's got all this. I'm getting paint all over my hands, but it's fine. But once I move this, you can really actually see what's going on. This is soaked in toxic paint, so I'm just going to really quickly step over here. Throw it away. My garbage can is full of like broken glass and toxic paint. Okay, because once I move this, then you can actually kind of like see it clearly. Like you don't have all that visual noise around. And if you're working on art at home on your own, that's also another thing. If you move it around, move it to a different table, move some stuff around, you can kind of see things with like new eyes and see it a little bit clearly. I knocked my chair over, but it's okay. All right. Yeah, dude, this looks dope. Awesome. Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up right now, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up. I'll move this wooden thing too. I'll just leave it actually. So yeah, I say this every time, but I always feel like I need to recap at the end, but you were just here with me the whole time, so I don't need to recap it, but some things that stood out I really like. I really wasn't sure. I mean, we just talked about it, but I wasn't sure how this fade of the sky was going to go, but it looks really sick, man. And I was really also stoked to get in these fading trees. This is like one of my favorite fall motifs that I drop in my art sometimes, where I get the tree fading all the way from yellow to red. So I really like how that came out. I also really like the black lines on the figures set against the background, which has no black. I think that actually helps them stand out like a lot. And then the windows, also unexpectedly, let me integrate the kind of space. So yeah, man, this is definitely one of the better ones so far. It's really dope. Let's see, anyone tag me in chat stuff? No. We're done. Perfect. Cool, guys. Well, that was extremely enjoyable for me. I really do look forward to this all day on Tuesday, actually. It's not just like an act I put on, so thank you for coming through, for hanging out. If you're watching this later, thanks for watching it. But if you're here now, it's kind of cooler. So thanks for coming through, hanging out. And that's basically it. That's basically it. Enjoy the next week of your fall life. Next week, if you want to come back, we're going to go hardcore. We'll just go all out Halloween style, like ghosts, candy, I don't know. We'll just go nuts on the whole Halloween thing. But yeah, that's basically it. Someone asked me, you were asking me about gouache and paint and stuff. If you ever want to ask me about like how to get into art stuff or stuff like that, I have an earlier episode about materials, but you can also DM me. I like advising people, especially if you're going to drop some money on like picking up art supplies. You might as well, I might as well make sure you don't waste your money or something. So hit me up. Otherwise, like I said, guys, thank you so much for coming through. I appreciate it. I enjoy having you here. And now we go back. To the spiritual battle that if you're here, you're probably partaking of in some capacity. We go back to it now. So thanks for coming, and I will see you guys on the internet where we all hang out together. See you guys later.